Alright, I don't know what happened, chat, but the fucking recording glitched out, so I had to re-record this shit. So we're gonna be checking out like I was saying before, I like to get two different schools of thoughts whenever I'm reviewing a topic, just in case, one person misses some details that might actually be like, smoking gun or, in any investigative case, details matter. So let's dig into this fucking video by Green Dot Aviation. I'll leave the link in the description below. Go like and sub to him and to me as well when you're done, if you so choose. And yeah, let's get into the shit.
How could a
For those of you in stream, obviously we'll fucking get right into the JFK shit right after. For YouTube, we'll fucking have to wait buckaroo to the next fucking video comes out. I don't know why I keep fucking spacing out here.
massive
Kevin
aircraft
Spacey
filled with
shit.
239 people simply
I don't even
vanished
need this
from
shit
the face of the
anymore.
earth? It might seem impossible in the modern era,
It's
but this is
impossible.
exactly what happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 on March 8, 2014. There are countless theories which try to explain the mysterious disappearance. Everything from a remote control hijacking to exploding fruit in the cargo bay have been suggested. But what if the truth is even more disturbing? What if somebody on board Flight 370 was responsible? This is the chilling story of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
Look, at the end of the day, dude, my speculation for this case, and again, it's allegedly. You have to say allegedly. Allegedly,
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that allegedly. It was the fucking captain, dude. Like, it has to be the captain. There's no other, like, bro. What does it for me, Chad, is the satellite shit, the fucking satcom shit. Like the fact that that shit could basically, like, even if there's a fire or a crash landing, like that shit's still on. Like the only way
Like,
that those like
turn off
communication
manual.
devices come off is if you manually basically human intervention. You need human intervention to shut these devices off. That alone is like a smoking gun. Like I don't even know how this is glossed over, dude. Like so easily. Like that alone is a smoking gun. Like it takes some level of knowledge to even know that those exist. If you expect me to know that just some passenger terrorist is gonna fucking know about a satcom and fucking how to disable and turn it back on and no, dude, they don't give a fuck about that. They only care about taking a plane, bringing it down, or doing whatever they need to do. Crash it or whatever it is. They don't care about that. Only like
What
a
if we just
no, dude. You actually have to think psychologically. Like a terrorist is gonna be thinking about way too much shit to care about like a satcom. We're talking about a device that you have to crawl underneath the cockpit of the fucking plane to access it, meaning you have to go into the pilot's room, pull a rug that's behind them where they sit, like where the pilot seat is. There's a rug behind them that they move, and then there's a door. You pull that door, you climb the ladder down there, and down there there's like a bunch of like a computer room, like a server room type shit, but in a plane. That's where the SATCOM is. So you would literally have to be like a fucking type pilot, like have pilot access and also pilot knowledge to even know what you're looking for. Like,
And it's a
God,
story that might finally help us find the missing plane.
it's not that like hard. Like the main reason that pisses me off that they disregarded like all this is because all of his colleagues and family were upset that they were accusing him. Like, bro, if the shoe fits, like I don't care how nice this guy must have been to you. At the end of the day, 320 people are missing. So I don't know, man. I don't care if I sound like a douche right now. Like, if the shoe fits and there's enough evidence to conclude that homie did it, and it's looking like homie did it, then homie did it. Like, but can you imagine fucking being like, oh yeah, nah, Ted Bundy didn't do it. Jeffrey Dahmer didn't do it, because he was fucking hot and fucking, he fucking nice guy. He's a nice guy to his landlord,
Oh my
He's
god!
a fucking nice guy to the librarian, his colleagues he was nice to, even though he's fucking murdering and decapitating and skinning people alive and eating them like a fucking cannibal.
It was a clear night at Kuala Lumpur, the capital city of Malaysia. Monsoon season was coming to a close, and calmer conditions had arrived in the region. This calm extended to gate C1 of the satellite terminal of Kuala Lumpur International Airport, where a Boeing 777 operated by Malaysia Airlines was preparing for its journey to Beijing. The aircraft was being fueled and loaded with food, cargo, and 227 passengers for the 6-hour journey north. As the passengers walked through the jet gates, none of
Yeah,
them could have
my
known
boy's got the Lightning McQueen backpack and the fucking Vader backpack. Let's go.
that they were about to become a part of the
Shut
greatest
up.
mystery in the history of aviation. Despite the sheer variety of theories surrounding this flight, one scenario stands head and shoulders above the rest.
Head and
Yeah,
shoulders, knees
This
and shoulders.
documentary is one of
I
the
gotta
first
walk
tellings of a
all the way back
plausible version of that story in its entirety. In the cockpit of Flight 370 were two pilots, both of whom, in a matter of days, would become the subjects of intense
fucking
scrutiny.
game.
Delivery Malaysia 370, good morning.
Malaysian 370, request level.
370, we are ready, requesting flight number 350 to Beijing.
That's First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid.
Oh my god, if I die again, if I die
Yeah,
again,
and
if I die again,
and that's another thing that could also explain like another detail that helps the case that it was the pilots, because in every case where it actually is like, you know, like some type of terrorists or a group of people that are fucking taking over, like let's look at 9/11 for example. When they took all those planes in 9/11, you could physically see people texting, you know, their loved ones and hearing that shit and being like, yeah, you know, I think the plane is being taken hostage, you know, I think this is going on, you know, blah blah blah. And keep in mind, this is 2001. We're talking about 2014. And these guys had fucking iPhones and shit. Back in 2021, back in 2001, they didn't have none of that shit. These motherfuckers had iPhones. And one of the pilots actually did try to connect briefly. So the fact that nobody, you know, tried to connect, make any calls, or fucking try to contact their loved ones or anything. Not even an email, not even a fucking text message, nothing. The fact that none of those things happened obviously points to the route that it was an inside job type shit. You know, like somebody with aviation experience, with the knowledge to be able to keep all the passengers quiet enough, you know, calm enough until the
calm, you know
point,
what?
up until the point of impact. Like so nobody's freaking out or bugging out or thinking that they got hijacked or nothing. It had to be somebody with enough experience to not raise any alarms, you know, basically no terrorist was involved, because if there was a terrorist, then people would have, you know, obviously been shook or been panicking and stuff. But given the fact that nobody was panicking, that means that it had to be one of the staff, because I can only picture a situation where like a staff member could do something like this and nobody's like alarmed, and then you're just, you know, you just crash the next thing. Like what?
Control. This was a
So
special
who
flight for the
survived?
27-year-old.
Nobody survived. The stuff found the plane, dude. The wreckage is still gone. We don't know where it's at.
370 was
And
his
this happened in 2014. They're
last
still
training
missing.
flight before being signed off to fly the Boeing 777. He had joined
So I hate
Malaysia
planes,
Airlines as
dude.
cadet pilot 7 years previously.
And yeah, and
in
that's what I'm trying to
2007.
say, chat. Like, it definitely has to be the pilot, because, like I'm saying, if it's a terrorist, if it, fucking Arich, like fucking, if it's a
Alexa,
terrorist, like I
take
said,
Andy.
people would have bugged out. They would have tried to
Alexa,
communicate with the
play
outside
Andy King.
world, something. But given the fact that it wasn't, that it makes it easier to speculate that it had to be a pilot or somebody with some type of, yeah, it definitely has to be a pilot, because only a pilot would even be able to access that shit without making it suspicious. And only a pilot would be able to, you know, maintain the arousal that everything is okay. Like my bad, the what is it called? The fucking the ruse that it's, you know, everything's okay, when in reality this guy's about to fucking crash land the plane. Like the only situation where that would happen and the passengers are calm and nobody's bugging out or trying to, you know, take their phones off of airplane mode to try to contact somebody to let them know what's going on. Yeah, the only situation where that would happen would be, like I said, is if a pilot were to do that. Because only a pilot would be able to commit these actions without having the passengers start bugging out. You know, because they think that everything's okay. Because the pilot is exactly where he's supposed to be, the pilot room.
What if
and
the
had flown
pilot
Boeing
got
737s
finessed by
and Airbus
somebody that was
A330s
good
for
at
the airline
education,
before
called
beginning
good at
training on the
pilots,
777 a few months later.
airplane shit?
They did try saying that because there was an engineer on board, but the problem with the engineer is that the engineer wouldn't have knowledge really. That like an engineer only really has knowledge of like how like a plane kind of like it depends on the engineer. Most engineers will only have like mechanical experience, you know, like oh the turbines don't work, let me try to fix that, you know, shit like that, like fixing a car. And on top of that, that would also go into what I was saying before, where if it was an outside source, you know, i.e., not the pilots, if it was that engineer, then you would think that one of the passengers would see him just casually walking up, and you know, somebody would have said something, dude. Somebody would have tried to contact that, like, bro. You don't just see some random passenger, because you got to remember, to us, to like somebody like me and you that would just be on the plane, this guy, I don't know that this guy's an engineer. If I see some fucking random guy just walking up to the cockpit and he's sitting in coach just like me and he just walks up to the cockpit and he tries opening the fucking satcom door and all that shit, I'm saying something. I'm like, hey, whoa, whoa. And on top of that, all the fucking flight attendants would have said something too. That's what I'm saying. He would have caused the commotion.
All you're gonna hear is "Don't be a hero."
Yeah, like, yeah, like no funny shit. Like act like that. Exactly. That's my point. You would have heard some type of commotion like that if it was a third party. The only way that this would happen is if it had to be a flight attendant, which, like I'm saying, that would be impossible because flight attendants don't know that. They don't even probably know that the SATCOM shit is down there. The only people who would know of the knowledge of where and how to get to this location and where to look for the boxes in this location without being caught and, you know, arousing suspicion and shit would be a
Oh,
pilot. It would just be
fuck,
it would be impossible,
Previously.
dude.
He had established an excellent performance record for himself in this
fucking,
time, and was
There's
assessed
no
to be
way.
well above average during his progression through the ranks at the airline. In fact, he was doing well enough in his training that the airline considered it safe for him to be paired with just one captain for this flight, rather than the usual two. And sitting to his left was that captain, 53-year-old Zahari Ahmed Shah. Zahari had
fucking
joined
wait
Malaysia
there.
Airlines as a cadet pilot in 1981. In this time, he had built up over 18,000 flying hours. This was an immense amount of experience, and it made him one of the most experienced pilots in the country. Zahari held a senior position at the airline. As well as being responsible for taking hundreds of people around the world as a 777 captain, for the last 7 years, he had also been training pilots to fly the 777 and examining them to decide whether they should be granted their license. Zahari was described by colleagues as jovial, knowledgeable, and a true aviation geek, who spent his spare time flying remote control planes, paragliding, and inviting colleagues to his home to practice procedures on his home flight simulator. But in the scenario which we're now exploring, there was much more to Captain Zahari than would be suggested by his disarming exterior. At just before 12:30 that night, 8 minutes ahead of schedule, the jet bridge was removed and the massive aircraft was pushed back from the gate. It was now a sealed vessel, operating under its own power.
What I'm trying to think though is, what about the second pilot? If we're gonna go based off my theory, where the fuck is the second pilot in this situation? Because that would
I'm telling
suggest
you, you're
that
not giving them niggas enough credit, bro. I'm
that
telling
would
you.
suggest no, dude. I am giving them a lot of credit because they
I'm talking about
fucking
the terrorists, nigga, the
yeah,
terrorists.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking
Maybe there
about.
was
Yeah.
some smart niggas.
No, dude, no, it's not how that works. But fucking if I am going based off of my theory, then where the fuck would the co-pilot be? The only scenario I'm thinking is that maybe he locked him out. But then if he did lock him out, then that second pilot would arouse suspicion, and then, you know, people would try to break down that door or some shit. Or at least text, you know, somebody and try to let them know what's going on, which didn't happen. So it had to be either that he knocked him out or some shit. Or, oh, is that what that big roller coaster loop is? When it just goes down, it dies? Could that be the captain trying to incapacitate the fucking cabin crew, the passengers and the co-pilot? You know, because he was experienced and the other guy wasn't that experienced, so he could have gotten knocked out from the G pressures, and he could have been the only one that survived. because he could have been the only one that put on the oxygen mask in time because he was obviously planning for it. So that could explain why the other guy didn't even bother to stop him, because he was already knocked out. Or he knocked him out himself. Or the latter could have been that he was acting cool the whole time, you know, like, oh, you know, hey, I gotta scratch my cock downstairs in the SATCOM room. Let me just go do that
He
really
said
quick.
scratch my cat.
Yeah, and then while he's scratching his wang, you know, he fucking fucks up the machine, disconnects it without the other pilot noticing, but that's like I don't know.
And untethered to the outside world.
It's a reach.
On board were 227
It's
passengers,
a reaching of
10
penis.
flight attendants, and 49
What?
metric tons of fuel. Some would later speculate that the captain took on an
A reaching of
unnecessarily
who?
large, or even a suspicious amount of fuel, about 30 minutes
A
more
reaching
than was
of who,
required for the
nigga?
distance. But the truth is that Malaysia Airlines mandated all Beijing-bound flights
Nah,
to
this
take
nigga
on 30
deaf.
minutes of additional holding fuel, so there is nothing suspicious here.
Nigga said
Sahari nudged the
reaching a
777's
penile
throttles
tax
forwards
high.
and began taxiing out to runway 32 right at Kuala Lumpur.
Nigga think he's Adam 23.
It was procedure at Malaysia Airlines that the captain should taxi the aircraft on the ground, while the first officer handled the radios. Once the plane had reached the runway, the first officer would take over and fly the aircraft to Beijing, with the captain handling the radios. As Zahari taxied out to the runway, the passengers settled in and tried to get some sleep. They would soon be in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, this guy
At 20
talking
minutes
about
to 1 that
pineal
morning, the
convulsions.
aircraft lined up at the runway.
Margaret
Ahead
as
were
you.
4 kilometers of concrete and a dark, open sky.
370, 32 right of takeoff. Nice.
Captain Zahari pushed the enormous Rolls-Royce engines to take off thrust, and then handed over control to First Officer Farouk as their 777 began thundering down the runway. Within
Alexa.
moments, Farouk lifted the massive
Alexa.
aircraft into the night sky,
Play Smile by
and
Juice
Flight
WRLD.
370 began its journey north.
Oh
As
my
the plane
God.
climbed out, Zahari contacted departure control.
Malaysian 370.
Manero said, Chingazo, can you play Catch a Grenade by Bruno Mars?
Oh!
Okay, level 180.
Oh, you-
Malaysian 1, 370.
This fucking game.
As well as clearing the flight
About
to
to
climb
lose
18,000
it.
feet, the controller had given the pilots a shortcut, allowing them to go straight to a waypoint further along their route, known as a Gary.
A
This
Gary.
waypoint, a Gary,
Or
is
Garrison.
kind of an unusual one. It's one of the few waypoints on the planet which is bordered by a total of 5 different airspaces, namely those of Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Singapore. This fact will take on an eerie significance in the scenario which we're about to explore.
Tell me that you
The plane continued climbing out as normal, leaving behind the bright orange sea of lights that was Kuala Lumpur. Its flight plan would take it northeast over the Malaysian peninsula and then out over the South China Sea. Before long, the departure controller handed Flight 370 off to Lumpur Radar Control, who was responsible for a higher altitude portion of the country's airspace.
370,
Zahari dialed this frequency into his radio set and made contact with the new controller.
Control Malaysian 370. Malaysian 370, Lumpur radar, good morning.
There's no way to track it though. There would be no way to track that thing now.
So far,
Damn,
everything was going
yeah,
to
trying to
plan.
track that thing right now
It
would
was a
be
clear, moonless
impossible
night.
underwater.
The aircraft was in good condition,
Fuck.
and there was little other
What
traffic
if they're
in the
not
vicinity.
underwater? What if they're all
I'm
high
trying to
needed to
think.
be-
That was a theory, is that they fucking actually didn't go as soon as the SATCOM machine shut down. They're saying one of the theories is that the reason that the guy or who the perpetrator shut off the SATCOM machine is so they could use it as kind of like a stealth type of thing to sneak past all the borders and make it as far as Kazakhstan and shit. And somebody planted debris around all the random beaches that debris were found later on throughout the years. They're saying that all those debris that were found were planted by, like, you know, like fucking KGB or CIA or something, or that it was shot down by a fucking military and covered up, and you know,
Fully
just
on their way,
wouldn't
was the
make
final
sense,
clearance
dude.
from air traffic control to climb to their cruising altitude. And at about 1:45 that morning, that clearance came.
Cause like what it makes sense there. You don't just shoot down 320 civilian passengers, and that's it. That's the end of the story. Like just that's it. That doesn't happen. Like that's like about to go to war type shit. That's a Cold War 2024 type shit. That just doesn't that doesn't happen. Like they would actually be held to pay. Like fucking you would have fucking like every nation threatening bombs and shit and fucking like hell no. That would be a
About
can of
20
worms,
minutes after
dude.
takeoff, Flight 370 had reached
It's
the
on
speed
top of a
altitude
can of worms.
of
It'd be
flight level
another can of worms.
350,
Yeah,
or about
dunno.
35,000 feet. When it did, Zahari made a routine report to air traffic control.
Add all the fucking enemies. Dear fucking God.
About 6 minutes later,
Oh,
he made
it's
this report
annoying,
again.
actually.
370 maintaining level 350.
Alexa,
Malaysian 370.
play Often by the Weekend.
It wasn't necessary for him to make this report a second time, but the fact that he did doesn't really tell us much. Anything from sleepiness to simple forgetfulness could have been responsible. Up until now, for the past
And the biggest reason, honestly, even though it might be the stupidest one, why I think it's the head captain is because of the political reason. Like 30 minutes before the flight was to take off, a Democratic political party opposition leader or whatever that he supported was just arrested and sentenced to like 5 or 20 years in like federal prison or some shit in Malaysia. So, it's definitely not out of the question that this is a political move. Like, people have fucking killed and done shit for far less,
Flight
bro.
370 had been about as routine as a flight can get. The flight attendants were making their way through the cabin with the meal service for those who were still awake. However, most of the passengers were asleep at this point. What happened next is the subject of much controversy. For this video, we'll apply Occam's razor, which holds that the
Occam's
theory which
razor.
requires the fewest assumptions is most likely to be the right one. The following account is not definitive, but it is the most consistent with the known fact.
And the reason why it's called Arkham's Razor, I'd like to think it's because it's a razor, it cuts clean. It usually works. And obviously the theory behind it makes sense too. Like, usually in an investigative process, assumptions kill. As soon as you start assuming things based off your own narrative and your own convictions and your own ideology, that's where you lose and you start seeing inside of the bigger picture. That's why you don't assume anything until you have all the evidence in front of you. You can't, you need to have all the conclusive details. You can't just be
Oh!
assuming shit.
And it is supported by some of the world's leading
Oh my
authorities on the
God.
subject.
Yeah, I love this
At
shit.
19 minutes past 1,
Fuck it.
as Flight 370 neared the waypoint to Gary, Malaysian Air Traffic Control told the crew to contact Ho Chi Minh Air Traffic Control, as they would soon be entering Vietnamese airspace.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night. Good night, Malaysian 370.
Much has been made in the media of this radio
I
transmission by
do
the
this
captain.
every day.
That's because, technically, a pilot is also supposed to read back the radio frequency they've been assigned, so the controller knows that the pilot has heard them correctly. But pilots who know an airspace well, like Zahari did, sometimes don't read back the frequency. So there is truly nothing unusual about Zahari simply saying goodnight as he switched over to Ho Chi Minh. What is strange, however, is what happened next. And here is where our scenario begins. Just seconds after saying goodnight to Lumpa Control, Captain Zahari asked First Officer Farik to go back into the cabin and get them both a cup of coffee. They had 5 hours of night flying ahead of them. A shot of caffeine wouldn't go amiss. The first officer dutifully headed back to the galley and closed the cockpit door behind him. Normally, the cabin crew would bring the coffee, but Farik was not about to question the man who held his career in his hands.
Okay, yep, it was definitely him. No, yeah. That solves the where is the second co-pilot theory. This man just sent the co-pilot to get a fucking cup of coffee when normally the fucking flight attendants would do it. That's already suspicious. In jobs like this, where a normal routine is actually like important as fuck, like a pilot's not supposed to just get up and fucking leave the cockpit to fucking get coffee. Like all those little things, dude. That shit is important as fuck, especially in a job like this. Because that can mean that somebody's planning something nefarious, something dubious.
Now, sitting alone in the warm cocoon of the cockpit
Oh,
was
yeah,
a man who had been
motherfucker.
rehearsing for this night.
Yeah, dude.
for
There's
over a
like I'm
month.
pretty sure. I don't know how many, but at least I've seen a fucking documentary of a guy who literally wanted to kill himself, so he did it on his like job, dude. This man was a pilot, and he had the pilot, like the co-pilot, go leave for similar reasons. Like, he told him to go get some shit, and as soon as the pilot left the cockpit, he shut the door behind them and locked them out. And normally,
Like,
if you get locked
yeah.
out or like terrorists fucking take over the plane, pilots know a specific security code that it changes every day. So they give you a new one every day. And only pilots would know the code for that flight. And like, let's say a terrorist locks you out of the cabin, you could overwrite the lock with that, but only a pilot would be able to overwrite the overwrite. So the guy tried to overwrite, and the pilot overrided his overwrite, and he locked him out completely, and then he crashed the plane and killed everybody
Every
on board.
step, every movement had been planned with the utmost precision.
Yeah, dude, that's
And it
fucked.
had to be, because Zahari was
That's why
trying
I
to pull
hate
off the
planes, because a car, you're in control, and somebody else might not be the best driver, but you could still try to salvage the situation. Like, if you're vigilant and paying attention, if somebody's speeding at you, you could still, try to get the fuck out of the way, or turn the car backwards so you take least damage, something. You could at least try to do something. But in a plane, dude, the only thing you can do is just sit there, buckle up your seatbelt, and pray to fucking Joshin that your pilot isn't some fucking sick freak who's planning to kill himself or fucking some shit, or that there aren't some fucking crazy religious zealots that are trying to fucking turn your plane into fucking Desert Storm 1012. Because Jesus Christ.
impossible. He would now try to make one of the world's largest,
Oh
most modern
my
jets
God.
vanish from the face of the Earth. Safely locked
Vanish
behind his
indeed.
bulletproof cockpit door,
Yeah,
ironically
you.
designed to keep would-be hijackers out,
Would be
he could now carry
hijackers.
out this
Be
plan
alone.
without interruption. He reached back into his flight bag behind his seat, pulled out a warm sweater, and put it on. He would be needing it in a moment. Zahari had chosen this exact moment to make the plane disappear because for these precious few minutes, nobody on the ground was expecting to hear from the aircraft. Malaysian controllers had handed him off to Vietnam.
Yeah, and you see, yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. It's easy to determine that it's the pilot because the suspect is just doing things that only a pilot would know. Who the fuck, besides a pilot, would know when and where to shut off the SATCOM? This guy specifically shut off the SATCOM computers as soon as they were in like a point in the sky where he knew that command wasn't going to be checking for the plane. Who else is going to have that information, dude? An engineer is not going to have that. A flight attendant isn't going to have that. A terrorist, no matter how hard they try, they're not going to have that. Only a pilot would literally have that. So even if you want to still say that it's terrorist, the terrorist is the pilot. Like, there's no fucking other way. There's literally no other way. That's 2 for 2 already. 2 pieces of evidence that signify that somebody with pilot level intelligence and experience and knowledge and position, meaning you have to be some type of pilot to be in the position in a plane, in the area of a plane to access all these things, it has to be a pilot. A flight attendant can't just go in the cockpit and fucking, shut off the commands whenever she wants. No, dude, the pilots would turn around and be like, hey, excuse me, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, bro, this is what I'm saying, dude. Like, we obviously know who the fuck it is. We just have to say allegedly because some people might get offended. Like, bro, I'm sorry to tell you, but just because you know Jimbo for 5 years, that doesn't mean you really know Jimbo.
I can't beat this fucking level.
Like,
And Vietnam.
look at fucking Jeffrey Epstein, dude. Everybody thought that they knew Jeffrey Epstein. Look at this guy. He's a fucking massive, like, pedophile, predator, sex slavery ring master. Like, I don't even know. Like,
These controllers were busy with the aircraft which were already in their airspace. As far as they were concerned, it would be a few minutes before Flight 370 checked in. So, for these precious few moments, Flight 370 was in limbo. Nobody in the world was watching. Zahari's first step in making the plane vanish was to make it disappear from radar. To do this, he needed to turn off the plane's transponder. But he wasn't going to do this straight away. If he did it before he
Some
reached the
bullshit.
galley,
Yo, yeah, and that's another thing. For all we know, all the people that were saying all that shit, that, you know, oh yeah, you can't be saying that about it. Like, bro, these are all, you know, people that were friends and close to him, family, and that's a very important, because if it, you know, if there's an investigation going on and one of your loved ones is being accused of, you know, fucking making a plane disappear and potentially killing 300 people, you're not gonna want them to be accused of that. You're gonna be like, no, he didn't do this. He didn't do this. Stop accusing him until he's proven. You know, you're gonna start defending him. So it's not wise to take their opinions, because it's obviously they're unbiased. I mean, they're being biased. They're obviously gonna want to
Malaysian air
defend
traffic
this man because they think that they know him because they fucking, you know, love this guy or whatever. But for all you know, for all we know, you could have had knowledge that he actually was doing this, and you're just trying to protect them because you know that if you tell the truth, this guy will be fucked.
control might notice him dropping off their radar screens. If he waited until he had reached the waypoint, he would truly be out of their jurisdiction. As the first officer obliviously fixed a coffee in the forward galley, or whatever counted for coffee on an aircraft, Zahari fixed his eyes on a galley, as it inched ever closer at 8 miles per minute. When the active waypoint at the top right of this screen here changed
Bro,
from
I
Agari
need
to
help
Betot,
on this
the next
fucking
waypoint en
mission.
route, that would be his trigger to turn off the transponder. And after a few moments, it came. The aircraft reached Agari
Please,
and began
nigga.
turning
Just let
towards
me
its next
heal.
waypoint. At exactly that moment,
I can't even
Zahari
heal.
switched off
I
the
ain't got no more
transponder.
heals. That's
Flight
crazy.
370 disappeared from air traffic control screens in Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia. Step 1 was complete. But unbeknownst to Zahari, he had left a clue. The first of a few clues he would leave over the coming
I
hours,
physically cannot
and a
read
clue
this
that
shit.
ultimately took investigators years to uncover. The transponder of the Boeing 777 has basically 3 settings. Fully off, where no information is transmitted to air traffic control; altitude off, where only the plane's
I
position, but
physically
not its
cannot
altitude,
read this
is transmitted to air traffic control; and fully on, where its position, altitude, and a few
Oh
other
my
parameters are
God.
transmitted. For a split second, as Zahari twisted the dial towards the fully off position, it passed through the alt-off position. Unbeknownst to him, for that telling split second, as the dial passed through alt-off, stations on the ground received the plane's position, while its altitude read 0. This is not what would happen if the plane had experienced a massive electrical failure, leading to the loss of the transponder.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, Chad. This is why I like to get 2 different opinions, like the Lamino video. But then again, Lamino's video did come out years before this, so there probably was a bunch of new information that this guy had access to. And plus, this guy's an aviation expert. Like, he fucking loves this shit. But yeah, to my point, yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like it was him, dude. It was him all along. Like, the fucking, like, this new evidence came out that the dial that he used to turn off the SATCOM machine, there's like 3 settings, and if you turn it to the right, it's like all the way on. If you turn it to the left, there's a setting that makes it so you can show only, you know, such and such position, but not that. And then under it, there's another one where it fucking puts only both of them, and then under that is the one where it shows nothing or whatever. And when he was switching through the settings for a brief split second, when the when the settings were changing, when the plane was telling the computer that it's at 0 altitude, meaning that he shut it off, the computer was picking it up that it was actually fucking 10,000 feet, whatever altitude they were at,
Oh,
basically signifying, hey, dude, this guy shut this shit off.
systems. If that had happened,
What I'm
all
saying.
of the data would have been lost at once.
Oh man, dude, I should have went to fucking criminal justice school. I'd be such
This
a good
brief
detective.
partial loss of transponder data suggests that somebody in the cockpit was turning the
dial,
manually
yeah,
to the
somebody
off
had to
position.
do it, dude. There's no other
But this
way.
clue wouldn't be discovered for a long time.
Okay,
As far as Zahari was concerned,
so I was.
how is this bitch ass nigga still hitting me,
step
bro?
1 of his plan had been completed successfully.
Bro, I
From that
can't do
moment,
this fucking
nobody
mission.
on the
I'm
ground
done.
knew where Flight 3
Yeah, dude, if you wanna watch this shit with me and chat, fucking put in the Discord. Alright, now let me make sure this still is showing on my stream. Okay, good.
370 was. The plane continued turning towards
Alright, what's up,
east-west,
Nero, if
the
you wanna
next
watch?
waypoint on its route. Except, there was still a problem. By disabling the transponder, Zahari had made the plane invisible to air traffic controllers, but Malaysia Airlines still knew that the plane was in the air. That's because the 777 is equipped with ACARS, or Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System. This
Yeah,
feeds
like that alone, that little detail alone is enough to incriminate this man single-handedly. Like the fact that he was trying to make the plane read that it's like invisible, but all the others like, like fucking whatever they're called, the reporting systems that they have at the plane terminals and shit, all of these were still picking up that the plane is still like, in the air and flying and tracing its position. Like that alone is enough to be like, hey dude, this guy is doing something suspicious. He's trying to mask his position and hide his position. It's definitely the pilot. Because like that leads me to my point, which is what I was saying earlier. If it wasn't the pilot and all of this was going on, you would think that a passenger or all of the passengers, given the fact that they know what the fuck 9/11 is, they would have fucking done some shit and they would have fucking, probably beat the shit out of the perpetrator or some shit. Because I'm sorry, dude, but you're not bringing a gun onto a plane. So if you try to fucking take a plane hostage with a fucking knife or some shit, you can ask how that shit went to all the other terrorists that tried doing the 9/11 shit. The only reason why the first two planes hit is because they were, they got taken by surprise, and by the time that the passengers realized what was going on, the plane was already going into the building. But the other two or three planes, I think it was, both of those all the passengers on those two planes that fucking realized, and that's what I'm saying, dude. Those people on those other two planes on 2001 were able to discover that other planes along with their plane were just hijacked, and they're on planes, bro, and they found out that they were hijacked in 2001. So like that's what I'm saying. If they was actually hijacked or some shit, they would have found out and they would have fucking fought these guys. Because any way you hack it, dude, like if you try, like you're not winning a fight, dude, with a knife. And there's like 50 passengers, and if you're being
Like,
realistic, all these passengers are gonna collectively think like, hey, dude, it's either you or us. So like, what are you gonna do? Like stab like one or two people by the time that we all dogpile you and beat the shit out of you and put you in the fucking in the bathroom and keep you there? Like what the fuck? It definitely was not a hijacking. If it was a hijacking, all that stuff that I just said would have happened, and fucking people would have fought back. Somebody would have tried to text the outside world and be like, "Hey, dude, we just got hijacked." The plane would have crash landed much sooner. Because they would have just been like, "Hey, you're not gonna hijack us. We'd rather fucking crash this plane right now." Yeah, it's the
status
pilot,
reports
dude.
from
It's
the
the
plane
fucking
to the
pilot.
airline via a satellite communication
The
hey,
system
si-
called
welcome.
SATCOM.
the silence, the calmness of the situation, and the specific mannerism and how it's done, the articulate maneuvers that he did, where he knew when and where in the space, like up in the air, to act to shut off. Basically only a pilot would know when to go. Basically go incognito mode. Only a pilot would
They said
know
incognito mode. What?
only a pilot would know, hey, the terminal command at the airport isn't looking at us right now. Let me switch off and go, silent mode. Only a fucking pilot would know that.
These status
A
reports include
terrorist or
information
engineer,
about the
nobody would
plane's
know
fuel
that.
on board, its maintenance status, and even its position
That's a
along its
dog
flight
nigga.
route every 30 minutes.
It's a little
Zahari
blind
knew that
nigga
he couldn't truly disappear as long as ACARS was still functioning, so he needed to
if I
disable it.
wasn't like broke, would you start acting
But
fine?
disabling
You gotta
ACARS
have
was not going
one
to
that
be
you
as
can
easy
take
as
it
turning off the
from.
transponder. If he turned ACARS off the usual way, it would send a message to the ground saying that it was being powered down. Not a great prospect if your mission is to disappear without a trace. To truly vanish without leaving a trace, the captain would need to do something far more drastic. He would need to essentially pull the plug right out of the socket so that ACARS would go dark immediately without sending this telltale log-off message. To do this, Zahari reached up to the overhead panel and, using 2 fingers, turned off both engines' electrical generators. This instantly cut off the electrical supply to a whole host of aircraft systems, including the SATCOM, the satellite communication system which ACARS uses to send and receive its messages. Now, there was no way for anyone on the ground to receive information from the plane. Just to be sure, he then went through the menu on his flight management computer and deselected the 2 ways by which ACARS can communicate with the ground: SATCOM and VHF radio.
Play safe.
Now, even if SATCOM came back on, ACARS wouldn't be able to talk
Alexa,
to the ground.
play say it.
As far as the outside world was concerned, it was at this spot over the South China Sea where MH370 had vanished. Disabling the SATCOM also had another benefit, which would be absolutely essential for the next step of the captain's plan. It meant that the satellite phone in the passenger cabin and the text message facility in the passenger's in-flight entertainment systems would no longer work. All lines of communication between Flight 370 and the outside world had been severed. To make assurance doubly sure, Zaharie then turned off the plane's external lights. Now, Flight 370 was fully invisible. All of this happened in the space of less than a minute. But these were only the first steps in Zaharie's grand plan. He had successfully hidden the aircraft from the people on the ground. But behind him, 238 people were expecting to be flown to Beijing. The first officer was making coffee, and he'd be returning to the cockpit very shortly.
Why am I getting attacked right
To
here?
carry out his full plan, Zaharie would somehow need to incapacitate every single person on the aircraft.
I was right. Oh my
To
god.
that end, he had at his disposal a rather unconventional weapon: air.
I fucking knew it. I knew it. I fucking knew it. So that is why the plane made that ridiculous roller coaster dive. Is because he was knocking out the entire, and that also explains why the passengers didn't text anybody or try to contact anybody, is because he got a double kill. While the officer, the second officer, was out making coffee for them, he's the only one in the cockpit, so obviously he's gonna put the fucking plane down in like a nosedive and used air as a weapon. He literally incapacitated the entire plane besides him because he's the only one that had access to a fucking oxygen mask.
More specifically, thin air. At 35,000
That's crazy,
feet,
dude.
there was only enough air to keep
I
the
just
human
want to
meaningfully
beat this
conscious for
fucking
about 45
boss, bro,
seconds.
please.
But the air inside a passenger aircraft is pressurized. It's
Oh my
capacitive, like the
God,
gas in a
man.
soft drink can. If the
What the
captain
fuck
could
is
somehow
this,
open a
poison?
hole in his plane,
Hmm?
most of this air would come rushing out.
I'm playing this fucking
Looking
game,
for
my
him,
nigga. I'm playing
he
Remnant
could
2.
open
This
a
is pissing me the fuck
On the
off.
underside of the plane, there were 2 valves.
Dude, YouTube's
aptly
pissing me
named
off,
outflow
dude. Like
valves.
fucking when I'm
By
not
opening
putting
them,
out videos
he
for like
could
a whole
vent all of
year,
this
I
condensed
have
air.
I'm like I somehow gain subscribers, and then when I'm putting out videos, I'm somehow losing subscribers. No, fuck, how does that work?
Air out into the
I
atmosphere.
fucking
The
wish.
captain readied himself. He reached
Alright,
into the
bro.
panel on his left-hand side, pulled out his oxygen mask, placed it over his head, and started the flow of oxygen.
Oh
Now that he
my
had his own
God.
oxygen supply, he swung his right hand up to the overhead panel and prevented the engines from bringing new air into the cabin.
Like
Then,
tweaking.
he pressed a switch which turned the aircraft's cabin pressurization from automatic to manual. Now he controlled the amount of air inside the aircraft's cabin. He had in his hands the air supply, the very lifeblood of all 238 people behind him. Once he carried out this next step, there would be no turning back. The next few seconds were the most critical in his entire plan. Just as he had rehearsed, Zaharie moved his fingers down to the 2 cabin outflow valve switches and pushed them
Goddamn.
to the open position. On the belly of the aircraft, the 2 valves opened. There was a tremendous whoosh inside the cabin as the air came rushing out. Any passengers who had been sleeping were startled awake by the noise and the change in air pressure. Their ears popped and the oxygen masks dropped automatically from the ceiling.
I got
The
one
sudden
health
expansion
left.
of the air inside the
One
cabin
heart left.
made it significantly colder, adding to the passengers' shock. But before the bewildered passengers even had a chance to put their masks on, the captain
Nigga
yanked
looked
the
like
plane
a shark.
violently to the left. In the forward galley, the first officer was slammed to the sidewall by the dramatic turn. He only had seconds to find an oxygen mask in the pandemonium before he would fall unconscious. The captain was
Bro,
holding
what
the
the
plane in
fuck?
a turn so steep that the automated bank angle warning sounded. The plane was at the edge of its capabilities, straining to stay aloft as the captain turned harder and harder. But this wasn't done for dramatic effect. Zahari needed this turn to be tight. He was right beside Thai airspace, and the last thing he wanted was to burst into an airspace which he hadn't been cleared to enter. Because even though he had disabled the transponder, there was still one way that he could be detected. Primary radar.
Like, this nigga
Primary radar is
resists
the most
element,
basic
bro.
kind
Like,
of
what
radar,
am I supposed to
and
do
it
with
works
it?
on the very simple principle of reflectance. A radar dish on the ground sends out a signal which bounces off any objects in the air, including planes and flocks of birds, and is reflected back to the radar dish. Because it just works by bouncing radar
What?
waves
Is
off
that
an
what that
aircraft's
shit
skin,
does?
there was no way for a pilot to avoid being detected by
Fucks up
primary radar.
my
But at the
dodge.
same time, because it's such a simple system, all it can tell is where an object is. It can't tell what it is or how high it
I'm
is.
so fucking spread.
If Thailand's military spotted an unidentified target infringing upon their airspace, they could well scramble fighter jets to investigate who the
I could be
mystery
grinding
intruder was.
for honor right now, but I'm choosing
So,
to do
as
this.
Zahari rolled wings level, just over 2 minutes after beginning his turn, he checked his position on his navigation display. To his relief, he had just about managed to avoid Thai airspace. Flight 370 was now headed in the opposite direction, back towards Malaysia.
Yeah, if I beat this by the
The
good
first
grace
part of
of
Zahari's
fucking
mission was
God.
complete, but a massive challenge still lay ahead of him. He would now have to cross back over the Malaysian peninsula without being intercepted by the Malaysian or Thai Air Force. And he would have to
How
do
did
this
I die,
without
nigga?
having his plans
Yo,
spoiled
can I please
by the
get one nigga to
238
join
people
this
behind him.
game? I just need one person, bro.
In the main cabin, the passengers were startled and confused. They had put on their oxygen masks and were listening intently to the cabin crew's instructions.
What the fuck?
The cabin crew told them that there had been a rapid decompression and that they would be descending to a breathable altitude soon. Apart from how cold the cabin had gotten and the fact that the oxygen masks had dropped, the situation appeared to be under control. Noise levels in the cabin were normal, and now that the sharp turn was finished, the plane was more or less flying steadily. But First Officer Farik knew that this situation was anything but under control. Nowhere in any
He knew that something
depressurization
has gone
checklist
awry.
does it say that the pilots should turn the plane around. Their first priority, after donning their oxygen masks, is to descend to an altitude where the air is
God
breathable.
forbid I win at this
Whatever was
fucking
going on in
game.
front,
No,
it
God
had to be
forbid.
very strange.
God forbid.
During the steep turn, Farik had
That
scrambled to
would be
sit at one
fucking
of the cabin crew
terrible, right?
stations in the
If I
forward
went
galley,
race to fucking
and he'd
do
grabbed
good
an
in this
oxygen
game.
mask there. Now, he was ready to return to the cockpit to help
Oh
the
my
captain with
God,
the
he
emergency.
takes a lot of bleed damage.
But, secure on the other side of the impenetrable cockpit door, the captain had other plans. Passenger oxygen masks
He
only
takes
provide
a
about
lot
20
of bleed
minutes of
damage.
oxygen.
Okay, there might
The
be
reason
hope.
for that is that
The
this
nigga
gives enough
take a
time for the
lot of
pilots to
fucking
descend to a
bleed.
safe altitude where the air is breathable. This usually takes about 10 minutes. None of
I
the
can use
passengers or
that to
crew knew it
clear
yet,
ads.
but they would not be descending to a breathable altitude. Their time was running out.
Damn.
First Officer Farik approached the cabin interphone at the forward left door, his heart pounding.
How did they not
Over
freeze
his
up
shoulder
there?
was slung one of the plane's portable oxygen bottles, which he had grabbed from its compartment. He had attached the flexible plastic mask to his face and was breathing heavily from it as he brought his fingers to the handset. There were 15 of these oxygen bottles distributed throughout the cabin, one for each of the flight attendants on a maximum crew flight. There were just 10 cabin crew on board Flight 370, so there was more than enough for each of them. And unlike the passenger oxygen masks, these bottles had 44 minutes of oxygen, more than the crew could possibly need in any conceivable emergency. But this emergency had never been conceived of.
Oh, please,
Farik was the
no.
only person on board breathing from a portable oxygen bottle. The flight attendants had followed their training and had quickly sat down at one of the spare passenger seats or at a flight attendant station and grabbed the 20-minute drop-down mask there. But Farik,
Dude, all I'm saying is that with all these situations where, like, you know, pilots be getting locked out of the fucking the cockpit, and they be fucking getting fucked, and then the whole plane goes down because the pilot brought the plane down like that. I feel like for situations like this, they should put like a little secret compartment where only the cabin crew and like the fucking pilots know, more or less just the pilots, for like an emergency like this, where if they get locked out because the other pilot locked them out and they can't get past the door with the code, there should be like a little secret compartment somewhere in the plane where they type in, you know, like a daily secret code, and then when they open it, there's like a little battering ram so they could just fucking pry open the door open. Get this fucker out of there.
Vic's situation was different. He was badly
Said
needed
this
in the
fucker.
cockpit, and a portable
But
oxygen
it should be,
Fuck.
it should require like 2 to 3 codes. So like if it's like, you know, like a pilot taking, like it basically if it's the situation where like a pilot took the fucking plane hostage and the rest of the crew have to now somehow get this guy out of the cabin, it should require like, you know, 2 to 3 codes to open the battering ram. Fuck, like, you know, like if you want to open the battering ram door to get the tool out so you could fucking pry open the door, it should require like 2 employees to put in their codes and then unlock it at the same time, type
But
shit,
you
you know.
know, the government profits off of shit like this because now they can sell propaganda. Don't get it wrong. Listen, shit like this does
You would
cause
actually be
public fear.
normally I would actually agree with you, but in this situation they actually lose money off shit like this because a lot of airlines actually end up shutting down when too many things like this happen.
But people still need to fly. They'll lose business for a short time, but shit will kick off booming once people forget. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and eventually you're actually not gonna need to fly anymore, because right now China and Russia are working on the Silk Road, which is supposed to connect like every continent in the entire world by road.
Bro, America's not letting that shit happen. That's one. America has their own business they're gonna lose out on. That's not happening, bro.
You would think that, but they probably will let that happen because fucking I'm not sure it's supposed to come to the United States, but it's supposed to go through all of Europe. And honestly, it would be more convenient for them because now they don't have to, you know, fucking ship shit through ships or through fucking planes, which could take longer. They could just drive that shit. And most of our stuff
The
is
bottle was
imported,
the
so it
only
actually
way
would
to
be
stay conscious
beneficial for
while he
everybody.
tried to regain entry. He picked up the
But yeah,
handset.
that's what I'm saying.
glanced the
Like
code.
this, like normally I would agree with you. Where like controversy, you know, fuck, like you know, like let's say like fucking some fucking cop bashed in some fucking guy's face with a Stanley Cup, and you know, then now there's controversy over Stanley. You know, like shit like that. You know, I would agree with you because you know, controversy always brings in sale. You know, people would be like, "Oh yeah, did you see how strong that Stanley Cup video was, dude? That Stanley Cup didn't break, and this cop was bashing that guy's face with it, dude. I'm gonna get a Stanley Cup." Now everybody gets Stanley Cups, dude. That's literally how that shit happened. But with companies like this, dude, where it's like actual people's lives on the line, where like if you are not paying attention, a piece of duct tape, like I'm not kidding. There's a fucking documentary video where a piece of duct tape that was left on. Okay, so have you ever been on a plane, Nero?
One time when I was a kid, that's it.
When you were on this plane, did you look out the window?
I don't know. I'm scared of that shit.
Okay, well, if you ever go back on a plane and you look out like a passenger window of a plane, you'll notice that there's like a tiny little like clear dot on the window. And those are like basically like pressure holes that help, you know, pressurize the entire cabin. And there's a pressure hole in every window. And apparently one of the mechanics forgot to take the pressure. He put tape over the pressure hole so in that way you can clean it and stuff like that so shit doesn't get in there, you know, because if that hole gets fucked up, it could actually cause the fucking plane to crash, which it did because he forgot to take the tape off during the inspection and the plane wasn't able to pressurize correctly, so it like I think it either blew up or it fucking like crash landed.
Nigga said blew up.
Yeah, and the fucking mechanic was sent to jail for a negligent
Alexa,
manslaughter and everything. It's pretty fucked, dude.
Alexa,
Code to
play
call the
Buddha.
cockpit door.
And I'm pretty sure
Alexa,
that airline
play
ended up
Buddha.
shutting down too. Like,
To
bro, there's
receive.
multiple like, dude, I can't even count them on 2 fingers. Like, there's just so many airlines that have shut down. Like Emirates, like, bro, there's so many airlines that have been shut down in the past and they don't exist anymore because they fucking, you know, they just had too much shit that went on, bro. Too many tragedies, too many accidents.
To his ear.
It's a
In the
tragic.
cockpit, a message appeared on the captain's central
Yeah,
display.
dude.
Cabin call. If Sahari wanted to open the door, all he had to do was rotate the switch on the
Bet you
center
this
pedestal
motherfucker
from the
take fire
off
damage.
position to
Bet
the
you that
unlock
nigga
position.
take fire damage.
The door would unlock.
Bet you the next
light on
motherfucker
the
I
entry
shoot
keypad
take fire
outside the
damage.
door would turn green, and Farik would be able to push it open. Farik waited, and watched as the light on the entry keypad continued glowing red. It should only have taken a second for the captain to unlock the door. Why was he not doing this? The first officer figured that he must have been very busy handling
I
whatever
bet I
emergency
shoot this
was.
nigga and he take fire
He
damage.
waited for a few moments, and then dialed the cockpit again.
I'm about to start a
The
petition
cabin
for
call
fire
message
damage.
appeared on the
For
captain's
fire
display.
damage in every game.
Again, he ignored
Oh
it.
yeah,
Fire damage.
GG.
Fire
was
damage is
terrifying.
dope.
The aircraft had depressurized.
Oh man, dude, I'm pulling a fucking Dante chat. I'm looking at the fucking video timer right now for how long this video is already. And this shit is already an hour long, and we've only been 24 minutes into the fucking video. I'm so sorry.
And it wasn't
Oh my
descending.
God.
Something
Maybe you
was
should
going
stream
seriously
faster
wrong
next
up front in
time.
the cockpit.
What? How, bro?
On the
What?
other side of the door,
Are you stupid? Do you know what a stream is, cuz? And he said, "Can you stream
Maybe you
faster?"
should stream. Maybe you stream faster next time.
How
About
do
that,
you
bitch.
stream something that's live faster now? It's
I'm about to stream
fucking
nuts on your forehead.
What?
my boy wants me to go in flash
Yeah.
time and
happened?
fucking cool down the earth, so then that way I can speed up time. You hear this guy?
I
after the orange lights.
Like,
on
no,
the
I'm flattered. You think I have this power, but I fucking don't.
Dakota Valley.
I'm a
Nah,
mortal.
What?
I'm a
Tap into
mortal.
the speed
What the
force.
fuck are y'all niggas on about? What is
This
going
nigga, he don't
on?
want to use the speed force. He bullshit.
Yeah, no, bro. Promise you,
Niggas retarded.
I'm
This
a
was
mortal
essential
man,
for
dude.
his journey back across his home country.
This nigga's retarded.
And it was
Alizé,
perfect
you
for
hear
this
this
mission.
nigga?
I'm just a normal
He's
human
making
being.
excuses.
You hear this guy, bro? This guy wants me to fucking cool down the earth on some Fire Force shit and speed up
I
time.
don't know.
Fucking
I
run.
just came in here to.
My,
I
my,
don't know.
my boy Nero wants me to run at the speed of light, dude. Mach 4 and fucking speed up the Earth's
Nigga,
atmosphere
you
so I can
supposed
go
to
through
run at
time.
the speed of time.
Oh, I was just seeing why Yannick pinged you, but y'all on
You
some
said
Earth, Wind, and Fire shit. I don't know.
Earth, wind, and
Some.
fire shit.
What
I
is
ain't even
that?
know
What is
you
that?
talking
Was to
about,
skirt
really.
the border between
The fuck is Earth,
Huh?
Wind, and Fire?
That's what I'm saying.
That.
I
Thai
sense
airspace and
homoerotic
Malaysian
tree.
airspace. This way,
I don't know.
when the Malaysian military
Smoke.
saw the plane on radar,
Smoke crack.
they would assume
Smoke
that it was
Smoke.
being handled by
Smoke
Thai
crack
controllers.
is crazy.
You hear
Maybe a little
By the Thai military.
methamphetamines.
You hear
Right
Jizzery, Chad?
sticks.
She's turning into
You know?
Alonzo now. She's like, what's the reason? I can't just hang out with my friends anymore. I need a reason to hang out with my friends.
No,
They saw the
it's not a
plane.
reason.
They would
I
assume
just
that
wanted
it
to
was
see
being
why you
handled by
pinged me.
Malaysian controllers.
I thought you needed to
And
say
Zahari
something.
figured,
I don't know.
Man,
Yeah,
Alonzo.
you gotta come hang out
even
with
if
us,
they did
Alizé.
realize that
That's the
the
Man,
reason.
British
Alonzo
Flight
be on some
370
fucking. I'm not
after seeing it
obligated
turn
to
back
do
the plane,
anything.
they may think that it
Oh,
was
nobody said
making
that,
an
but I
emergency.
thought you pinged me for a reason. I don't
No,
just
I'm not
randomly
saying
ping
you
you.
said that. I'm saying fucking niggas in this chat be like this. Alonzo be on some weird
Oh
shit.
no.
Like, bro, it's like I don't gotta do anything. I'm not obligated. Fucking, I'm not gonna do things that friends would normally do because I'm not obligated. Like, bro, what the fuck?
to
I
return to
don't
an
know.
airport,
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah.
Penang's airport, where it appeared to be heading.
Wow, your
If this was the
name is
case,
real
the
deal
fight would be the
dick.
concern of the civilian controllers, who were sure to
I
be
told you this nigga is tweaking.
She said real. Nah, yo, dude,
This
chat.
nigga made
Real
my
deal
name
Dicko
Dicko
mode is
Mode.
They weren't
crazy.
even thinking about it.
Nigga made my name Dicko Mode. He went
Flight
crazy. He
370
went ape
was
shit.
in limbo.
Yeah, but adding the real
I
deal
can't
is
do it.
actually
Meanwhile,
ludicrous.
locked out of the cockpit,
Yeah,
First
I
Officer
can't tell you.
could tell
Nigga's
that
crazy.
It's
pressurization.
real deal dick.
She
He
said,
really made my name
like,
Dicko
bro,
Mode.
like Deco mode is one thing, but real deal Deco mode is actually insane, dude.
Change his name to that. Change his name to
Nah,
that.
yo, that nah, that fucking, that's actually insano style, dude.
Real deal Dicko Mode is crazy. I ain't gonna lie.
That's
That's
actually,
crazy to me. That's honestly crazy to me.
that's actually fucking insane, bro.
That's crazy to me. The nigga made my name Dicko Mode for real.
No. It's
What
a
if the
real
reason the
deal
door wasn't
dick.
open
That's fucking
was that the captain had
actually
a
Real deal
insanity,
Dicko
man.
Mode
capacity
is
decompression.
crazy.
This would be
Real
honest.
deal
No,
Dicko
that's
Mode
After
actually
all,
some
crazy.
donning the
ludicrous
oxygen
shit.
masks was the first item on
So
the checklist.
you really gonna leave my name
Completed
Real
even
Deal
before
Dicko
the
Mode?
set was initiated.
Hey, I'm
And
just
what's more,
business, so I don't
Captain
want to
Zahari
hear
regularly
shit.
taught this scenario
So,
to pilots in
My
this
boy
nigga
said,
just
hey, you guys
niggas
heard from RDDM? Who the fuck is that? Oh, real deal Dicko mode?
airlines flight
R
simulator.
double M?
He was more qualified than almost
My
anyone
boy,
to
that
handle
R
such
double M,
emergency.
real deal Dicko mode?
How could he simply forget to put on his
Fucking,
oxygen
that's
mask?
actually insanity, bro. It's
There was no
insano in the
time for him to
membrane.
work this out. He needed to
Oh,
get
you
back
really just
inside the
gonna make my
cockpit.
name Real Deal Dicko
For
Mode?
that, he had one last
How
option.
you feel, Nero?
Cockpit
you
door
feel?
keypads
Oh,
don't just
man.
accept
My
written
boy
code.
feels like he's in
As well as the
blasphemy
wrong
right now.
code, There was a special
I
code for the
don't know
rare
what to
event
say at
in
this
which
point.
pilots
It's
are
like, what can you
incapacitated
say for
and the
real?
cabin crew need to gain access.
This nigga went retarded.
With this code, the door
Yeah, he
opens
went
I'm
retarded.
automatically
retarded,
if
bro.
the
You're the
pilots
one
haven't
going dicko
responded
mode,
after
cuz.
30 seconds.
Nah, he going real
He's,
deal.
This
Yeah,
emergency
fuck
code
is
you
can
on.
can't
also
stop
be
a
used by
retard.
hijackers
It's
to
just,
gain
you gotta
entry
let
to the
him do it.
cockpit. So, to prevent this, in the
Other
cockpit,
things do
pilots
He's
this
take
got
thing.
turns in
retard
turning the
strength. We
door
can't
switch to
stop
the
him.
deny position
Oh
for
god,
the
just
first second
let him wear
before we
himself
gain
out.
entry.
He'll
Go
get
ahead.
This
tired
clever
Let's
logic
eventually.
do the
allows crews
move.
to gain
Come
entry to the
on.
cockpit in case of a
Azula, can
pilot
you get up,
incapacitation,
mommy? You
but
take
also
up the
gives flight crew
whole
the ability to
bed,
deny entry to
please.
You
hijackers.
could stop
Move.
Nero from going
The
dicko
first
mode,
officer
but you
hurried
can't
over
take
to
the
the
dicko
keypad
mode out of
and punched
Nero.
in the emergency code.
What's wrong with him? I was like, this shit, man.
A loud buzzer
That's
sounded
you,
in the cockpit.
cuz.
That
If the
shit,
captain was
man. I was
incapacitated,
like,
the door would automatically open for Farik in
No,
just 30
no, man.
seconds.
Azula,
like,
He waited
up,
anxiously.
go.
his
10
Dicko
seconds
man's the
passed,
first, your man.
then 20. But those final seconds came and went, and the keypad light
Yo.
remained red.
Oh my god, my
Horrible,
ass
sinking
cheeks
feeling came over the
hurt.
first officer. He entered the code
Oh,
once
your
again,
arse cheeks
this time
hurt.
more carefully, and he waited, counting down the seconds using his watch.
I
Yeah,
can't even
nigga.
And yet
Put in
again,
pain.
after 30 seconds,
Put in
the
pain,
light
damn.
remained red.
Oh my
This could
god.
only mean one thing.
It
On the other
hurts.
side of the cockpit door, the captain had heard the buzzer
Well, he's
and
fucking
turned the switch to deny.
Oh my god.
Nah.
The captain checked his watch. The time was 32 minutes past 1 in the morning. 12 minutes since he
God.
returned to
That
777
ball.
I
back
know
in
you did
Manila.
not call me fucking
About
Alonzo.
5
I feel
minutes
like
from now,
slapping
the
you.
passengers' oxygen masks would begin
Haha,
to wear
Mappo.
out. When they did, all 227
That boy
of
home,
them
Mappo.
would become hypoxic.
Yeah, I know, but I know
The
you
10
real
flight
deal didn't
attendants
call
were
me
in much the
Alonzo.
same boat.
My boy
Actually,
got
real deal did.
a girlfriend and thinks he's too good for us
Still
now.
strapped in and waiting for the signal from the
Oh.
captain that they were free
He
to
got
get
a
out of
taste
the
of
cabin.
pussy and he fucking jumped
The
ship.
effects of hypoxia
He
are much like the
retasted
effects of
some
alcohol,
poon, yeah.
with some people becoming
He
euphoric and giddy,
retasted this.
others
He
becoming angry,
retasted
and
it.
others
Yeah, that's
still
how Alonzo
What
is.
the
He
fuck did you do?
like
Heat it up?
like he'll go
Oh
through
my
like
God.
he likes going through
Heat it
droughts,
up?
dude. Like last time I'm pretty sure he had a girlfriend was like in 2020, dude. He likes going through like
What the
droughts.
fuck?
Yeah,
Hell no.
at
The
least to
longest
my
I've been
knowledge.
without dick was 6 months.
Like at least to
That's
my knowledge. Like
wild.
I don't be stalking the homie, so I don't know if he be talking to bitches on the DL or some shit or getting side pieces or one night stands. But to my knowledge, that I've seen him with the female, you know, like at his house, you know, like at a barbecue, you know, that we're all hanging out or some shit, or that at least he told me that he has a girl. Was recently when he brought up his girlfriend that all of a sudden he has now that lives in Texas. I don't know what's with this kid and always talking to fucking chicks out of state, dude. He likes the out
What
of
the
that. His last girlfriend
Maybe he
misery
likes
was
the
from his last girlfriend that he had would like they
Oh,
would
he
visit
can't
each
even
other.
fuck her.
No, they would visit each other. Like she would come here and he'd go there to Mississippi or what was it Mississippi or Montana or some shit. And
Yeah,
Nah, bro.
Montana.
Nah,
yeah,
bro, that's wild.
and
If I have
then
somebody, I need to be able to fuck you. Even if I can't fuck
Contrary
you,
to
you
what
ain't
many
mine.
people think,
and then now
you
his
don't
girl
suffocate
is
in a
like from
depression.
Texas
There's
or
simply a
whatever.
dimming of
So
awareness
he went there or
until
some
the global
shit.
lights go out.
Look, can you find a
Yeah, dude,
girl
Ironically,
all
that
power
is
to
the
not
him.
in
loss
the
of mental
way?
faculties which occurs in
Please.
hypoxia
As long as
I love you,
my
but you're
boy's
always
happy, that's
in
all
the
that
way.
matters.
prevents the
Okay?
realization
And your breath
that it is even
smells
happening.
like
All I'm
dusty
saying is fucking, you know, the homie could hop in here
Oh,
some more,
yeah.
play some games, dude.
She stepped on my titty,
In the
you
cockpit,
fucking bitch.
Sahari made a minor
Oh, hell
adjustment to
no.
stay on course as he carefully scanned the skies
Oh,
around him.
yeah.
He was now back
Yeah.
over land.
Man, when
feeling
Albano,
advanced
yeah,
winds. He'd been
yeah.
flying in these skies for decades,
Porno,
day and
baby.
My
night,
boy is
and he knew
going
the lay of the
Dicko
land so
mode.
well
Yeah, it's
that
good.
he could
Yo.
easily
Yo,
identify
bro,
the
what's good
various
with you
towns
tonight,
en
my
route
boy?
as he flew
My
overhead.
boy's
Yeah,
real
tell
deal
me.
He knew
Dicko
that
mode
with
tonight,
current
cuz.
speed,
This nigga's
he
a
would be able
dick
to cross the
astrologer.
peninsula in about
Bro,
30
Astrologist.
you're on
As he
some
flew, he
dictology
had his
tonight,
radio
my
tuned
my
to the
bro.
Kuala Lumpur air traffic
This
control
nigga's
frequency.
about to do the blood
He could hear
alchemy
the
just to
controller
summon
talking
some
to the other
dicks.
planes
This nigga's
normally.
crazy.
My boy Nero's about to write a
However,
book called
it was business
Dickington, the
as usual
sequel.
in Malaysia.
He said in equal exchange you can't
At Ho
have the
Chi Minh,
choke
however,
without the
controllers
length.
had
My boy
noticed
Nero
This is
said
impossible.
my boy Nero
The
said the
Malaysia
only
Airlines
way to
flight
actually
Kuala Lumpur
measure a
flight
penis is
370
length
had
times
contact.
girth, not girth times
This
length.
wasn't overly
Yeah,
concerning.
Alizé, look up
Sometimes it takes a few minutes
22's new
before pilots
interview.
get
It's
in
him
touch.
No,
and Rasta
don't
talking
do
about
What
it.
dick.
was unusual
Yo.
was that the flight
Nah,
wasn't even
fuck
showing
Adam
up on
22.
radar,
I don't know how
despite
he be
having been
letting
handed
people
over by
like
Lumber
Nick
Control
get fucked on
almost
his
20
girl and
minutes
record
earlier.
that shit. Like,
Dude,
They
that's
just
Bro,
don't
white
get it.
people are weird. They're different. They
dude.
want to make money off that.
Yo, that's honestly nothing. that
Like
that
literally the mother to your children,
dude,
and you like
compared to
let
what he just
niggas
Oh,
did
fuck
he had a
her.
child
today,
with that bitch.
dude,
Yeah,
compared
he has kids with her.
dude,
That's
compared to
disgusting.
what that man did today, what he did with Lana was nothing. That's like normal shit compared to what this
See,
man
like
did
her,
today, bro.
I don't understand the purpose of someone being your wife
The
if you
controller
just
tried
gonna like
contacting the flight
share it with
over the radio.
everybody. Like, what's the point?
Like this man really thought it was okay to post on his page that he's the #1 penis inspector certifier. What are you even going on about, man? What the bro? It is 10 o'clock in the
Yo,
morning.
I
I
want
just
that
woke up.
job.
I
Give me
literally
that job.
just woke up, cuz, and the first thing that I see on my Instagram is Adam22
Be the
commenting
penis
back.
inspector.
Yeah, Adam22 commenting back at fucking whoever the fuck it was
Cock
commenting on
inspector.
fucking his penis, talking about Drake's dick, talking about, oh, slow down, buddy. I'm the only certified cock
Wait, wait,
inspector
wait.
here. Like, what are
Wait, he
you?
saw Drake's dick, Adam 22?
Yeah, dude, that's why I woke up so angry today,
What?
dude. Like the first
How the
thing,
fuck did he see Drake's dick?
dude.
I'm so confused.
Look, bro, I don't know, but all I know is that when I woke up today at like fucking 9 o'clock in the morning and I load up Instagram for the first time, dude, the first thing that I see is, oh, Drake's dick this, Drake's cock this, everybody's talking about Drake's dick. And then fucking I see a post from No Jumper Adam talking about, like, answering back to some other guy going on about fucking, oh, yeah,
How
dude,
did you see
chill.
Drake's dick? That's so confusing.
I didn't see his penis, but I'm saying I saw, like, you know how,
No,
like,
not you, Adam
uh,
22.
oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then this man goes on,
That's sus.
like you could just go on Instagram and look up No Jumper, dude. That's like like the most recent pics. This guy talking like,
That
yeah,
is
dude,
so
hold
sus.
hold your phone, Jimmy. You don't have a right. I'm the only penis certified penis inspector here. Like, bro, what are you going on about? Cuz, bro, don't you have 2 kids? Like, bro, you using
He
your
dead ass has two kids with that bitch.
like don't
Is
don't
married to her and lets other niggas fuck her. Like,
Like,
that's
don't tell me
crazy.
you're using your wife as an excuse to be on some fucking Brokeback Mountain shit right now, cuz. Like, what the
Not
hell?
even
That's
that.
Ho
Like,
Chi
crazy.
she's
Minh
such
was
a
far from
sugar mama. Because I bet you any money she makes way more money than
Harry's mind at this
Adam.
point.
Whoa,
As
whoa, whoa, whoa,
controllers
whoa,
there
whoa,
counted up
whoa.
the minutes since he was
Whoa,
supposed to
Adam
have
been in
made
the game a
contact,
minute.
he was
He
counting
been
Yeah,
he
down
been
but
hours
tucking
she's a
himself a
before his
fucking
minute.
crew
nah,
would lose
bro. But she's
consciousness.
a fucking
Dude, I don't
porn
care
star,
how
and
long
because
you've
of
been in
their
the game, dude.
controversies, she's making bread.
Dude, I don't care how much fucking time you've been in the game. One BBC video is enough, dude.
Yeah, you're
Like,
making fucking bank.
like we're talking like you potentially could even start rivaling Bill Gates, my boy.
Oh my God.
Like, that's
What
dirty
the
money,
fuck
dude.
is wrong with this
As for his
game?
own oxygen supply, he was at no risk of running out. His
Oh
Like
supply
my
right
God, this
contained
now,
two.
I'm
game
pretty
is
sure a
not
study
real.
came out. I know we've been going off tangent right now, chat, but I
Please,
know that there's a
please.
fucking statistic right now that 1 in 3 women in America are going to make an OnlyFans or already have one.
Large tanks
You
underneath the
said one
cockpit,
in three?
which had enough
Yeah.
oxygen.
So that basically means you, like all 3 of us, know somebody
Oh,
that does OnlyFans. Whether they want
I
to
know a
tell
couple
us
people that
is
do
up to them.
OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Me personally, I know like 3 or 4 girls that
I
fucking
know a couple people. It's crazy because there's girls that I used to go to middle school and high
yeah, and
school
2 of
with.
them went to high school with
One of
too.
them's
Yeah.
a fucking
Oxygen to last
redhead
two
and she
pilots
was
13
lesbian.
hours, or
And I'm
one
like,
pilot
damn, do I really
27
want to pay
hours.
for this shit?
These tanks are topped up a few
No,
times each year.
I'm not mentioning
And,
names,
looking for
dude. I'm not
Sahara,
gonna do
or
that to
perhaps
them.
more than just
I'm
looking,
not mentioning
this
names
oxygen
neither. All
supply
I'm
had been
saying is
topped
she was
up
a
that
redhead
very
and she was
evening,
lesbian and
just
I
before
got
the plane
curious
had
and I
departed
almost
for
oh
paid for the
shit.
Colombia.
shit.
And on top
I
of that, I don't
just
want my
set
Unlike
this
the
girlfriend
guy
thinking
on
that
Discovery,
I'll
it
fucking
OnlyFans.
is
Y'all
watch
still
them or
believe
only
some
me?
of the
shit.
actual tech log
Huh?
from Flight
What'd you
Y'all
say,
370.
gonna
Nero?
support my
This is one
OnlyFans?
of the
I'm gonna
last
start
pieces
one.
of paper generated by the flight before it left Kuala Lumpur.
You
The
get me
tech log
I'm gonna
subscribers
contains
and
do
I'll
it.
data
link your
where
OnlyFans
engineers
in
and
my
pilots
videos.
note down any faults with the aircraft and
Wow,
whether
this
they need
nigga
fixing
will
Bet.
be
before
your
the plane goes on its
plug.
next flight.
Hey, bro, you
There
get
are
me
two
some.
things
You
which
get
stick
me
out in this
viewers, dude.
document.
I'll fucking.
First, under default
I'll post
description,
your
the engineer
fucking
wrote
your link
Yo,
E
down
bro,
below.
and
listen,
nil notes.
you're gonna be
In
the
other
new
words,
Adam
no
22. Like, yo,
maintenance
did you
needed.
see Nero's beef in
He
that
Yo,
also
new
crossed
video?
out these fields
Shit was
to show
crazy,
that
bro.
nothing was needed.
Hey, dude, I'm not
this
gonna.
nigga is gonna be
Then,
your
sometime
online
later that
pimp.
evening,
Hey, dude, I'm not
the
gonna.
cockpit manager
I'm not gonna let
declared
anybody get a
oxygen
crack on my
system
girl, but
cracked to
you
1800
know,
psi.
if you guys want to
You gotta
However,
work.
even when the
fucking
plane
post some
arrived at Kuala
penis
Lumpur
pics,
earlier in the day,
you could
and when
send
it
it to
left the
Nero's
bay that
PO
night
box
as
and he'll post it for
MH370,
you, and then
Whoa,
you
all
could
the
send
way
me
from
Wow.
some. You guys
Oxford,
could send the subscribers my way.
whoa,
Hey,
Yo.
whoa, the
hey,
buckaroo.
hey, dude, you're the OnlyFans guy, right, dude?
Yo.
I'm not getting involved in that dirty money.
Uh-huh.
the The first
Yeah.
episode was
Listen,
beginning to
I
Here-
said, listen.
Girl,
no matter how many
Hey,
times
dude, you
Listen,
can keep
I'll
you can
link your
you
YouTube. Listen. I'll link your YouTube
you can keep the
in my
dirty money, dude.
bio.
I
you're a
just want the
wench. Get
subs.
up, wench.
He says you're a
enter the
wench.
code
What you
in
just
light
call me,
in
name?
red.
What did this name you
Wench.
call
Man
me?
whose actions
You
were
can keep
against
the money in there. You can
Name?
keep the
his
dirty
desperate
money in there.
bid
I
to
just
get
want the
people's
subs.
attention.
What did this
Well,
name
Just
just
want
call
the
me?
view.
Scrolling
Hey,
slowly.
well,
Flight 370 had still not
Wench.
turned up on radar.
you
You
filthy
name?
wench. You
The
wench.
controller had tried asking other planes in the area to
Every
make
single
radio
time, Misery, somebody says the word wench, I just immediately think
That
of that
means your
night.
dirty ass money.
I just immediately
Cool,
think of that
bro.
night that we watched Game of Thrones and that guy got fucking cucked and got his penis chopped off by that guy that
Oh
literally
yeah,
cucked.
he's a eunuch. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that guy literally was like, oh
Oh
man,
yeah, I was
that shit,
watching Game of Thrones with
dude,
you.
that
That shit's
shit.
medieval porn.
That
I
shit
swear, that shit's
actually
fucking hot.
traumatized me, dude. Like that shit, like bro, sometimes, dude, sometimes I'll be, doing the stuff with my girl and then I'll just get
He
unaroused
said
and
doing this stuff.
she'll be like, "What's wrong, babe?" And I'll just get unaroused and I can't tell her, "Yeah, it's because one time I was watching fucking Game of Thrones with Misery and this guy was about to have a fucking threesome with two bitches and then some other fucking night guy comes in and is literally like, "Get, these two bitches are mine now. Yeah, mon ami." And then fucking two other night guards come in and just literally chop his cock off while this other guy just took his two bitches.
Yo.
My boy got cucked and he got his penis chopped off. That's a double whammy. I can't have that, dude.
including on
Jesus
the
Yo.
Christ.
frequency.
That's some
I'm gonna
savage
bust in your
shit.
door while you
These aircraft
fucking your
reached
girl
but were met
and
with
wave around a pair of
Jesus.
scissors.
after
Like I'm just
repeated efforts,
imagining some like anime scene where my girl's just sitting on me, and then 1 minute, my penis is in her, and then the next minute I have no penis because now my penis is stuck inside of her because some fucking guy came with a katana and just sliced my penis off.
to call the missing
That's
aircraft,
crazy.
the controller at Ho Chi
Oh,
Minh
man.
telephoned
I
the
got an
controller at Kuala
imagination.
Lumpur and told him that
What's
he had not
wrong
been
with
able to
you?
make radar contact.
Dude,
But
my imagination is the sole reason why I fucking
No.
work 2 hours at the gym, dude. Is because if anything happens, like anything, like if any situation were to be happening, dude, I could just be prepared for anything, dude. I have the
Matter of
stamina and the
fact,
strength.
you gotta find a clip of
he
that
asked
and
whether the
link
flight
it
had
in the
come back
chat
to
so
Kuala
Nero
Lumpur,
could see
but the Malaysian
it.
controller told him that it hadn't.
This
is
man
about
dead ass
video.
became a
But
fucking
something
eunuch.
terrible had happened
They,
to the flight.
he was, you know
The
what's
controller at
fucked
Kuala
up?
Lumpur
Like
began
back
calling
in
out
like
Flight
medieval
370 on the
times,
radio
right?
in
You
case he
wanted
had
a
returned to
boy
his
so he could
airspace.
carry on the succession of your
Zahari was listening
line,
out,
like your
but remained
lineage,
silent.
and carry
For the
your
first time
last
that
name.
night, he had
So what's
confirmation
fucked
that
up is the
ground in the
Greyjoys
was missing.
only had one
The
son,
time
and he was
1:41 in the
constantly
morning,
bragging about
20
his
minutes
dick.
after the flight
And then they
disappeared
cut
from
that
radar.
shit off. So the only other
Controllers
person
are
that he
supposed to
had
report when an aircraft
to
takes more than
succeed
5 minutes
him
to make contact.
was a girl. He
Clearly,
had a
the
son
air
and a
traffic control
daughter,
system
and
was
his
not
Don't
only
tell
son
me
got his dick cut off.
and as
his
Zahari
son
watched out,
never got no more poontang before
Nope.
that.
Nope, he never got anybody pregnant.
Damn, he sucks.
No,
out his
but I'm
window,
saying they were
he
all
hoped that the
bastard
Malaysian military
children.
was
They
just
weren't
asleep.
like
Because right at that
royal
moment,
children.
his plane
I
was
mean,
lit
if he
on
was
the
bragging
common
about
radio
his
screen.
dick so much, it should
Racing
have
It's
been
like
protected.
it's like Elden Ring, Nero, with fucking like Godfrey, like the first boss. How he's like, oh wait, you never played Elden Ring, never mind.
They're
Out west,
bastard
across the
children,
peninsula.
so they don't
Yeah.
count to carry on the line.
Zahari could
Mhm.
see the
Hey,
lights of Penang on the
bastardi.
horizon.
He's a bastardo.
Once there, he would carry out the next step of his plan.
Coastal flood. Oh, we have a coastal
Around this
flood
time,
again, dude. What the
Listen,
passenger
fuck?
Dio
oxygen
and all
masks
his
began to
children.
run out. Gradually,
Visor.
the low chatter
Yeah.
which had pervaded the aircraft began to fade. In a matter of minutes, all 227
Yeah,
passengers
that. Oh
would
man,
be
that guy
unconscious.
did it, chat.
And unless pressurization was restored, not long after that,
Nah,
they
what
would suffer
traumatized me
irreversible
from
brain
Game
damage
of
from oxygen
Thrones
deprivation.
is watching
And
the
then
translator
death.
get her head cut off.
Huh.
Flight 370 looked like any other.
Another one that traumatized me was when that big burly guy with the axe was like having some day brawl with some skinny guy with the sword because he like fucking R-worded like his wife or some shit and killed his little girl too in front of her. Like he R-worded his wife in front of the girl and then killed both of them or some shit. Oh, dude, that shit is gruesome. And then the predator guy literally wins the fight and then decapitates the little wannabe hero guy. Like, bro,
plane as it whispered
Jesus
along.
Christ, bro. The least he could have done was fucking impaled his cock. Like, shove the sword in
Man,
his wiener.
I
high
kind
above
of
the
want to
Malaysian countryside.
rewatch Game of
It was
Thrones.
now becoming
Get that
a
done. Fucking bring that evil around here, then.
flying mausoleum for all but one of
Nigga
the
said he
occupants.
decocting.
She said that Game of Thrones is this shit. No,
Game of Thrones
Game
is
of Thrones
evil,
is dead
man.
ass
Growing
medieval
increasingly
porn. It
desperate.
really
Game
is.
of Thrones is literally blasphemy and sin. I don't want to
None of his
fucking
attempts
be
to get back
attached to
into the
that.
cockpit
I
had
want my
worked.
name. I'd rather
He had to
rewatch
try
The
some.
Witcher, dude.
Who wants to
No,
watch
and
my
then
neighbor?
Different.
What's
Jesus.
He knew
crazy?
that at
What's
this
crazy
altitude,
too
his
is
mobile
that
phone would have no signal.
House of the Dragon
However,
is
at
even
one of the
worse.
cabin crew
Like
stations,
children
there
die
was a
in House of
satellite
the
phone.
Dragon.
Maybe, he figured, if he could get through to the
Oh,
airline,
man.
somebody might be able to help him.
I am looking forward to the Fallout show. That shit's gonna be sick.
Farik began making his
Who's
way back
making
to the
it?
cabin.
I don't know, but it's gonna
The
be
clock
on
was
like
ticking.
I think like
Farik still had
Paramount. I
about
forgot
20
what
minutes of
subscription
oxygen in
service,
his
but it's like
tank.
a good
But
subscription
as he
service.
walked
People are
back
gonna
through
say
the cabin,
saying that's gonna be
he was
good.
beginning to feel lightheaded. Even
I
though his
hope
mask was
so.
providing 100% oxygen, it was not
I'll
designed
watch
to be
that.
used at high altitude. for
Yeah,
prolonged
same.
periods of
I'll
time.
fucking watch part of
By
that shit if you
comparison,
guys want.
the captain was wearing a full face
That's
mask
You know,
gonna be
with a
sick.
okay,
tight seal,
this
and
is
which
gonna
was
sound really
specifically
crazy now
designed
that
to
you
deliver
say that,
oxygen
but
at a
also
positive
not.
pressure.
Have you heard of like
This
people
meant that
being
at
like
4
the government conditioning people through like the media?
That's been a thing.
Okay, right? Okay, you know about that. So I'm saying like why is like a show like Fallout coming out now? You get what I'm saying? Like are they preparing us for fucking like nuclear warfare?
Well, I mean, fucking the whole shit with Israel and fucking Palestine, like that, like, you know, that's already turning into like a war
Leave
that
my
multiple
fucking
countries are getting involved
ball.
in. And on top of that, Biden just basically came out and said that 3 of our troops just got fucking killed by Syria. So yeah, it's kind of looking like it's gonna be a world war soon, dude. Because if more people from different countries keep having men, you know, dying because of these fucking two countries' wars, yeah, there's definitely gonna get people involved, and you already know what that means, dude. Because I doubt all these countries that are gonna get involved are gonna want to just be like, hey, dude, yeah, no nukes. Let's just only stick to what we've been using. Nah, dude, they're gonna want to fucking use those nukes, and when they use those nukes, that means everybody's using nukes, and we're all fucked.
forced oxygen into
That's
his
what I'm
lungs
saying. I
at a
feel like
rate which
shows like
ensured they
Fallout
received
are
as
coming
much
out
of it
now
as they
to
needed.
just condition us for
And with 26 hours of
potential
oxygen remaining,
nuclear warfare.
Or they could just be
Oh,
getting
yeah.
ready to fucking use
What,
nukes on
Nero?
How the
Palestine and
fuck
he
shit.
was
do
in
you
no
not
rush to
have this
repressurize the
game?
plane.
I've been
What
struggling
fucking
on
By now,
this
he had
game?
one
calculated
fucking
all
level
of the
for so
passengers
fucking
and most,
long.
if
What
not all of the
fucking
crew,
game,
had
real
lost
dicko?
consciousness.
Fucking Remnant
On
2,
his lower
god
central
damn it.
monitor, he could
How
see the
much
first
is it
officer through the
actually?
Get with
CCTV
the
That's
feed,
what I
fucking
checked.
slowly
program.
walking
That
away from
was
the
it.
door
Oh,
back into the
actually,
main
I
cabin.
can't get it. My PC specs aren't good enough. That's
Now,
why I
at the
can't get
other
it
end of
on
the Malaysian
PC.
peninsula,
That
Zahari
was
had
it.
reached the next important step in his plan.
You lucky I'm not a
Ahead of him
husband from the
lay the
18, I'm
Indonesian
sorry, the
island of Sumatra.
1960s. Cause
Shut the
As far
fuck
as
up,
boy,
Zahari was
bitch. You wanna
concerned,
buy me a
this was an
fucking new
impenetrable wall.
computer?
cause
Shit,
boy,
I'll
Only
let
radar
you be my sugar
installations
daddy
up and
for
down the
that.
island, and there was
cause
no
boy,
guarantee that
you
the
would've,
Indonesians would be as
boy,
blasé
you,
about
that
unidentified
wash and
aircraft
dry would
as
have
the
been your
Malaysians
best
would be.
friend.
If he wanted to escape,
My boy thinks he's Arthur Morgan. Boy, 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 you best get down here, boy, boy.
he
I'll
had to
tell you
avoid
something,
Indonesian
boy.
airspace altogether.
Yo, I feel old as shit when I
So,
have to
for the
scroll
next
down
part
to
of his
find my
plan,
birth year.
he would need to turn to the right and fly up the Strait of
Chill,
Malacca.
bro.
Yo,
This
I'm
way,
dying.
he would remain inside Malaysian airspace.
You know what
all-
made me feel old today? When fucking I was watching the
What the
when I was
fuck?
like watching the Selena video and fucking I found out that she died at 23, dude, and I'm 23 right now. Like shit. Like I was her age when she fucking got blasted.
all the way until he went out of range
Oh,
of
finger
primary radar.
blasted or just blasted?
No, with a
Far below
gun.
him, on his right-hand side,
A
was the
finger
island of
blasted.
Penang.
That's not what finger blasting is.
And now,
Yeah, that
fly
means
over it
something else,
one last
homie.
time.
But okay, sure, we'll go with that.
Zahari twisted the heading
It was
select
a
knob on
finger
the
blast,
autopilot,
man.
and the aircraft began a slow, sweeping turn
Yeah,
to the
my
right.
PC
My
specs
boy
I don't think are good
my boy
enough.
Nero be on some. Oh yeah, dude, I had sex last night. I took out my dick and pissed on her leg.
As it did,
Whoa.
the first officer held his mobile phone against the passenger window and tried desperately to make a call. His attempts
Yeah,
to
I
use the
don't think
onboard satellite
I
phone
have.
had proved fruitless. He didn't know it, but the SATCOM, the satellite communication system, had been
Oh my
disabled.
god, this nigga's a hoe.
I think
For he
that's why I
could see
didn't
the
buy it though.
distinctive island of
Aw,
Penang beneath
Nero
him, along with
needs
its
my
airport, which he had flown to many
help.
times. This was the first
Isn't
time
that
since
game
leaving
crossplay? Can I just play it on
he had a clear
Xbox?
idea of where the
I
aircraft
don't
was.
No, it's
No.
not.
Normally, mobile phones
Oh,
cannot
it's
get a signal at
not.
the speeds and
Damn,
altitudes that
Nero.
airliners fly at. But with the
Oh,
plane
yeah,
in a
dick
turn,
wipe.
its distance to the cell tower on Penang
No, that's the
remained
next
roughly
thing
constant.
that I'm spending money on.
So,
like I'm
for a
making
few short seconds, the
a
first
full
officer's mobile
tower
phone,
build,
an iPhone
like
5,
from scratch.
connected to the ground station in
Oh
Penang.
my god.
But far from being able to make
Scratchy
a call, all the
Skynet
screen
watching.
got
right
was a
now.
brief, fleeting signal bar at the top of his screen. For a few
This
seconds,
nigga don't
the
even
cell
take
phone tower
bleed damage.
registered a
What the
signal hit,
fuck?
indicating that the phone was on.
Said,
but
what the
nothing
fuck,
more.
Bobby?
On a real note,
When the signal
I'm
bar
going to bed
disappeared,
though, because I
Farouk
gotta wake
knew
up
that
early
he
in
was
the
truly
morning.
out of options.
Oh yeah,
Boo.
Judge.
Barely able to stand up
You
from
guys are
hypoxia
Homo
and exhaustion,
sapiens. Stay
he
blessed.
made his way back to the cockpit door.
Boo.
Shut up.
Still in complete control,
Shut
the
up.
captain
I
rolled
gotta
out
see if
on
my
the
PC.
northwest heading.
Hasta
I gotta see.
Some have
Yo,
suggested
you're
that
a
this
fucking
turnaround
wench. Shut
Penang
up.
was
I gotta
Zahari
see if
bidding
my
a
PC
final
specs are
farewell
good
to his
enough to buy
hometown.
Remnant 2, you
However,
fucking whore.
this is
Oh,
unlikely.
yeah.
Good night.
For one thing, the turn began
Night,
after the
night.
plane had passed
Later,
the
Good
island,
Georgia.
so it wasn't
Good
really a
night,
turn around
nigga.
the island. And besides, the turn was too shallow for the captain to have been able to see the island.
This
anyway.
nigga has the weirdest fucking attack pattern.
Sentimentality
It
had no
pisses me
place in the
off,
cockpit of
bro.
Flight 370.
That's just on Josh
What
and
mattered
them.
was the mission. And the mission was far from over. It had
The
been just
mission.
about 35 minutes since Zahari had depressurized the plane and turned it back over the Malaysian peninsula. He had managed to get across the peninsula without being intercepted by fighter jets, but he still had a significant challenge ahead of him, because Malaysia Airlines had just found out that something was amiss with Flight 370. At Lumpur Radar Control,
Oh my
the
God,
supervisor
this
on
nigga
duty
is
telephoned
so
Malaysia Airlines
fucking
dispatch
sad.
center, telling them that Ho
I
Chi Minh
can't-
had been unable
I
to
can't
contact
get the
Flight
fucking
370
timing down.
or see it on radar.
Oh.
The dispatcher at Malaysia Airlines checked the airline's online flight tracking system to locate the flight on the map. It showed Flight 370 to be in Cambodian airspace.
Cambodian
Of course,
airspace.
In reality, Flight 370 was nowhere near Cambodia. What the
It has
dispatcher
perished.
did not know was that this flight tracking system didn't use live information from the aircraft
Right,
to update
trying
its
again.
position. Rather, it simply projected its last known position out into the future. Since the plane's last known position was over the South China Sea, heading northeast, that's where the flight tracker showed it to be. So far as Malaysia Airlines was concerned, and now air traffic control authorities too, that's where Flight 370 was. They had no idea
Damn,
that
Chad, this video is gonna take a fucking minute to upload, dude. I think it's gonna be like a 2-hour long video. Holy
at
shit.
very moment, the aircraft was hundreds of kilometers to the southwest, in Malaysian airspace, speeding up the Strait of Malacca.
Oh my God, I fucked up.
But it still wasn't
Yeah,
good
fuck
news
it,
to the
yeah.
airline that one of its flights hadn't checked in with air traffic control. The dispatcher at Malaysia Airlines sent an ACARS text message to the cockpit printer, asking the pilots to contact Ho Chi Minh immediately.
Ho Chi Minh.
Oh.
But this message didn't make it to the cockpit of Flight 370. The captain had stopped the ACARS from being able to communicate with the outside world right after he had removed power from the SATCOM. He was intent on ensuring that not a single clue about the aircraft's
God, this
status or
nigga has a
position
two-part-
made it back to air traffic control or Malaysia Airlines.
Yeah, this guy was just trying to cover up his tracks. Like, this guy was just trying to, like, you know, like, fucking, I guess, kill himself or some shit and have nobody know that he killed himself. Like, it was just like an accident. This guy wanted to cut his cake and eat it too.
However,
He
even with
wanted to cut the chingazo and be the chingazo without being the chingazo that is cut.
the ACARS disabled, there was still one big thorn in Zahari's side. He knew that at Langkawi Airport, in the Malaysian state of Kedah, there was a primary radar station. He also knew that the range of this radar was 200
Oh,
nautical
it was
miles.
so close.
For every second he spent
bro.
inside the
This
range of this
time
radar,
fucking
he risked being
dodge,
discovered
bro.
and intercepted by fighter jets. Because he couldn't avoid this radar,
Fighter
his strategy
jet.
for this part of the mission was to blend in. Even at night, plenty of commercial
Alexa.
aircraft fly up and down the Strait of Malacca, on their way between Kuala Lumpur
Play
and
Blue
Europe
Bay
and the Middle
Bay.
East. To anybody looking at the radar that night, Flight 370 would appear as just one more dot, moving serenely up the Strait of Malacca. An eerie silence now filled the passenger cabin of the 777. It had been almost an hour since the plane was depressurized, and all of the passengers were either unconscious or dead. The first officer, and any cabin crew who had used portable oxygen bottles with a 44-minute supply, had slipped into unconsciousness too. At an altitude of 35,000 feet, even 100% oxygen delivered through a portable oxygen bottle is not enough to stay meaningfully conscious. The only person alive and functioning was the one up in the cockpit. But the situation which he had created was now beginning to have unexpected side effects for his plane, and these had nothing to do with his oxygen supply. Back at Agari, when the captain had cut power to the plane's 2 main electrical generators, the aircraft's computers had diverted the limited remaining electrical power to only the plane's most essential systems. But now, almost an hour after this had happened, the plane had begun throwing up warnings saying that the computer room underneath the cockpit, known as the E&E bay, was getting too hot. Its cooling fans
It was
were
getting
one of the
too
things which
hot.
had lost power when the main electrical generators were depowered. So Harry didn't fancy finding out what would happen if the computers which powered his cockpit screens and the aircraft's massively complicated
What the
systems
fuck?
overheated. According to his checklists, the very least that would happen was that his screens would start going blank. Without them,
Every
he would not be
fucking
able to
time
complete
it
his
don't
mission.
fail.
He had to restore power to the cooling fans. Flight 370 was nearing the edge of Langkawi's primary radar.
He was nearing the
After
edge.
this, Zahari would be free, totally unseen by the
Ah.
outside
He was
world.
edging.
He decided that once he was outside of radar range, he would be safe.
Oh, yeah?
Only then would he restore full electrical functionality to the plane. Meanwhile, air traffic controllers in Malaysia and Vietnam were becoming increasingly confused. Malaysia Airlines operations had told Lumpur Radar Control that Flight 370 was in Cambodian airspace. But, as Vietnamese controllers confirmed, Flight 370 was never supposed to enter Cambodian airspace. It was supposed to fly over Vietnam. And besides, Cambodian controllers couldn't see Flight 370 on their radar. So, where was the flight? Was it over Cambodia or Vietnam? Or was it in the air
Vietnam.
at all? In truth, all parties involved were being duped by the software Malaysia Airlines used to track flights, which merely projected the plane's last known position out into the future.
He was just projecting.
In the cockpit of Flight 370, Zahari could see on his CCTV display that the first officer was laying slumped against the cockpit door. The one person who stood a chance at thwarting his plans had been eliminated. Just in case there was anybody left, he picked up the microphone and made a call on the intercom, asking for somebody to come and help him in the cockpit. He watched the display carefully. Nobody
Bro!
came.
Oh my god.
At just after 20
my
past
God.
2
Yeah,
that
actually,
night,
that-
Flight
that's
370
dubious.
slipped off the radar at Langkawi. Now, truly, the flight had gone dark. Over 200 people on board were
There's
dead.
actually evidence that he fucking actually went on the intercoms, was like, "Hey, is anybody still up? Could somebody help me?" Just to make sure everybody was fucking knocked out. That's some sinister shit. That's just dubious.
But at this point, an hour after it had turned back at Agari, barely a dozen people in
At
the world
Agari.
even knew that the plane was missing. Zahari had been listening in to air traffic control on his radio set, and there were no signs of fighter jets being scrambled to intercept his plane. As it would turn out, military radar operators wouldn't even notice his flight on their screens until they played back a recording of them the next day. Safely beyond the reach of radar, and secure in the knowledge that he was now the only one left alive on board, Zahari was now able to restore full electrical power to the aircraft. He reached up to the overhead panel and re-energized both the left and right electrical buses. A host of onboard systems sprung back to life as the plane reconfigured electrically. The familiar hum of the fans below the cockpit resumed, and they began cooling the hot computers. Zahari had made it. He had done the impossible and made a Boeing 777 disappear into the night, never to be seen again. It would be morning before anybody began searching for the aircraft, and they would begin by searching the only logical place, the South China Sea, where the flight had disappeared from
The
secondary
South
radar.
China Sea.
The sensible conclusion for rescuers to draw, given that the plane had disappeared suddenly and
And that
without
thing is
sending a distress
massive
signal,
too.
would be that a bomb or catastrophic structural failure had downed the aircraft. Zahari knew that in the days and weeks that followed, it was possible that investigators would review tape recordings of primary radar and see that the plane had turned back at Agari and then turned again at Penang and flown up the Strait of Malacca. But he knew that this is where the trail would end. If authorities were smart,
Oh,
search
yeah?
and rescue operations would focus on the Andaman Sea and the Bay of Bengal. And this, in Zahari's mind, was the beauty of his plan. Because now, out of radar coverage, he would pull off his final trick. Once he had flown past the island of Sumatra, he would turn to the south and take his 777 deep into the southern Indian Ocean. Nobody could possibly know that he had taken this turn. And even if they somehow did, they wouldn't be able to find him. The Indian Ocean is enormous, and with over 5.5 hours of fuel still on board, he could go deep into the middle of it.
You go
As far as
deep.
Zahari was concerned,
Deep
His
in the
plan was
trenches.
foolproof. Except, it wasn't. Zahari didn't know it, but the SATCOM, which had been rebooted when he restored power to the main electrical generators, wasn't just a passive system. It wasn't like the radio antenna on board the aircraft, which simply received radio signals and sent them only on request. When he restored full electrical power to the aircraft at 25 minutes past 2 that morning, a component of the SATCOM, the Satellite Data
Alexa,
Unit, or
Play
SDU,
Blue
The
Balenciaga.
SDU.
and when it did, it
Satellite
sent a
Data
message
Unit.
to a satellite high above the Indian Ocean, saying as much. This satellite was operated by
My
a
boy was
company called
caught
Inmarsat,
red-handed.
which stands for International Maritime
It's a
Satellite.
cock red-handed.
Hey,
The
yo.
plane's SDU told the satellite, or more accurately, told the ground station in Perth, Australia, which the satellite acted as a conduit for, that it wanted to log on to the satellite network. This log-on request was proof that the plane was still in the air, or at least that it was still intact. And what's more, every hour the ground station in Perth would send a message to the plane, which the plane would respond to, confirming that it was still on the network. What this meant was that Zahari was dead wrong in his assumption that he had completely vanished. He continued up the Strait of Malacca, oblivious that he was carrying with him an enormous liability. But he couldn't be blamed for thinking that the SATCOM wouldn't give much away, other than the fact that the plane was still flying. After all, this log-on request contained no information. From the satellite's point of view, it just got a message from a Malaysia Airlines plane asking to log on to the network. This message didn't say where the plane was, or anything else of the sort. However, it did contain one piece of information, which, in a week's time, would shock the world. An engineer at Inmarsat would take a look at this log-on request and have an ingenious idea. Attached to the signal sent by the plane was a timestamp saying when it was sent. The satellite also recorded when it had received the signal from the aircraft. So, by comparing these two times, it was possible to determine how long it took the signal to reach the satellite. The engineer who looked at this data realized that because this signal traveled at a known speed, the speed of light, he would be able to determine how far the plane was from the satellite when it sent the signal.
Oh,
He
yeah?
carried out this calculation and got an answer for how far the plane was from the satellite when it sent the log-on request. Simple physics and a spark of insight had shown that at 2:25 a.m. on the morning of March 8th, Flight 370 had been somewhere on this ring. Not inside of this ring, but on it. Everywhere along this ring was the same distance to the satellite.
That's a pretty big
Since
ring,
the
though.
last known position of the plane on primary radar was just 3 minutes beforehand, here, it would be impossible for it to have travelled all the way to Africa, or India, or way south in this time. It had to have been somewhere close to the last known position, on an arc about this length. And so, the first arc was born. Zahari had just given investigators the ultimate clue. And what's more, it wouldn't just stop at one ring. A new ring, and therefore a new arc, would be formed every hour, when the ground station in Perth inquired about the plane's online status. These routine exchanges would come to be known as handshakes. One arc every hour for as long as the plane was in the air. From this point on, the story of Flight 370 is the story of these arcs. On board Flight 370, the mission to oblivion continued. Zahari repressurized the
What are you
aircraft.
doing, Baji?
With everybody behind him incapacitated or dead, there was no need to keep the air pressure so low. Now, mask off and out of radar range, Zahari could begin the next stage of his mission, turning the plane to the south. Out his left-hand side, he watched the lights of the distant towns on the coast of Sumatra glitter. When he was beyond them, he would make his move.
Alexa,
As
play
Zahari
Pleading
watched
the
and
Fifth
waited,
by NBA.
Malaysia Airlines Operations Center back at Kuala Lumpur was growing increasingly concerned.
Oh, yeah?
It was unheard of for a
AYB?
plane to be out of
Pleading the
contact for
Fifth by
this long.
NBA Youngboy.
At 2:38 that
Oh
morning,
my God,
they
it's
sent
the
a message to the
ABN
aircraft
Boy
with
Young.
cars, which was supposed to appear in the
Alexa,
cockpit
Oh,
here.
boy, that's
Play
young.
Pleading the
This
Fifth.
message was not received by Flight 370. Zahari had severed the connection between
What
ACARS
is the
and the
name of this
SATCOM
boss?
and VHF.
The
The airline sent the message again at 2:39 a.m., but it didn't arrive this time either. Had the flight experienced some kind of massive electrical failure?
fuck-ass
Was it
boss.
lost over Southeast Asia? Or had it landed somewhere in Cambodia? But then, Malaysia Airlines Operations decided to call the plane over the SATCOM. In the cockpit of Flight 370, the SATCOM phone rang. Zahari saw the call come through on his screen. He now had confirmation that the airline knew that something was wrong with his flight. He watched and waited for the call to finish ringing. After a few seconds, it did. Zahari wondered whether the ground would be able to tell the difference between a call which had gone unanswered and one which didn't reach the aircraft
Oh
in the
my
first
god, I
place.
forgot how this dumbass.
But at this point,
damn,
it
my
barely
nigga,
mattered.
what the fuck?
The airline was still trying to locate the plane somewhere over Cambodia. In fact, less than 10 minutes earlier,
Yo,
it
everything
had
about
told air
those
traffic
beeps are
control the
actually in
plane's
my room,
coordinates,
chat.
according to
Shit
their
is
flight
fucking
tracking
hilarious.
software. They had no idea how far off they were. In fact, it would be another hour before Malaysia Airlines realized that the position
nigga.
updates they were getting were simply from the projected
The
path
fuck?
of the aircraft on the flight tracking software. They sent another ACARS message at 2:40 AM and another a minute later, but each time the message was not received. Operations didn't know it, but Zahari had disabled the VHF and SATCOM link to the ACARS. None of their ACARS messages
He has
would get
disabled the
through.
VHS.
Just as Zahari had expected, the Malaysian military had been asleep at the wheel. They had failed to identify an unknown target for more than an hour as it passed right through their airspace.
Damn.
Under the cover of darkness, and having completely duped the authorities, Zahari would
I
now
mean,
make
but still, dude, it's the military. Like, you know, you'd fucking think that somebody would take the night shift and stay up while the rest of the camp is fucking sleeping. So what? If that, like, it's, you know, like 1 o'clock in the morning. Oh yeah, it's nighttime. Everybody fucking close up shop. You know, even though we're a fucking army base, let's close up shop. You know, even if we're attacked. You know, it's fucking everybody's asleep. Oh no, we got attacked. We were sleeping. Fuck. What? No, dude. What the fuck?
his final turn south.
It's like some medieval shit. Oh yeah,
He twisted
dude, the
the
whole
heading
village got
slightly
raided.
and
It was
left.
nighttime. What can you do?
777,
Like,
Zahari's
what the
unwritten
fuck?
accomplice obliged, completely oblivious to the mission of his party. As Zahari turned south, he could picture the headlines which would appear in the newspapers over the coming days. He could envisage the countless theories which would be put forward to explain the mystery. He knew that as long as the wreckage was never discovered,
Bro,
there would always be a shadow of
this
doubt
game,
as to what had caused the
like,
plane's
it's so
disappearance.
fucking unnecessarily
Some would
hard.
say that what happened on this night
No, they don't know. But we know. We know. We know what happened.
was a tragic accident, that some combination of electrical failure, rapid decompression, and pilot incapacitation led to Flight 370 going missing.
I know Nero was on
These
some
theories,
fucking
which we will call
Gizmondo
accident
shit.
scenarios, all have massive
Oh.
flaws. If there had been an electrical failure big enough to
He
incapacitate
was on
the
his
pilots,
dicko mode
why did the
temper
satellite data
tantrums.
unit come back online an hour after it was disabled, and stay working for hours afterwards?
Yeah, that.
Usually, when electrical systems
Alexa.
fail, they stay failed. And
Yeah,
if
Alexa.
the pilots were so incapacitated that they
Oh,
couldn't get
fuck.
the aircraft to descend
Sometimes
and
they
get
just
back to the
fail
airport,
and then start
why were they
working.
still conscious enough 30 minutes after the
And if it
emergency
does, it
began
usually
to
shuts
Alexa.
off
turn it
again.
on
I don't
Play
know.
all
If
the
it
and
just,
then,
yeah, it
more
just
than
stays
40
off.
minutes after that, to turn again, out over the open ocean?
Like, what the fuck is that?
What's more, why did they turn at such inopportune places? Why was every turn timed perfectly so as to avoid detection by air traffic controllers, civilian and military? Anybody who believes the disappearance of Flight 370 was an accident also has to reckon with the fact that the aircraft's problems started exactly when it reached Agari, the transfer of
The
control
Gary.
point between Malaysian and Vietnamese airspace. If an accident had caused Flight 370 to go missing, then it would seem that chance itself had framed the pilots for the disappearance. Others would say that a hijacking best explains the aircraft's
Bro,
disappearance.
what the fuck?
But if that were the case, this would need to have been the most
So
technically
bullshit.
sophisticated and yet ultimately the most fruitless hijacking of all time. These hijackers had clearly done their research. They knew the surrounding airspace inside out, judging by their ability to evade detection by the military radar for over an hour. And they had intimate knowledge of how to fly and how
What's
to
up,
hide
Goose?
a Boeing 777.
What's up, school
They
sucks?
apparently knew exactly how and exactly
What are we
when
watching?
to turn off not just
Yeah,
the
my
transponder,
bad on school
but
shit.
the SATCOM
That
and the ACARS
sucks.
too. These were no
We're
rookies.
watching the like a different
And yet,
video on the
despite all of
Malaysia
this
Air
planning
Flight by
and
Green
skill,
Dot
these
Aviation.
hypothetical hijackers
We got
appeared
like
to
a
possess
lot more
strange lack of
facts
conviction.
than
An hour after disabling the
we did
SATCOM, they
yesterday.
were kind enough to turn it back on. They were also considerate enough not to crash into any buildings,
Like,
and they were
what?
selfless enough
Yeah,
not to make
George.
any demands of any authorities on the ground. In fact, if a terror group was responsible for the plane's disappearance, it was apparently humble enough not to claim responsibility after the fact.
Humble enough.
Nigga
Because
killing
9 years after the
fucking-
disappearance, such a claim of responsibility is yet to be forthcoming. This is not even to touch on some of the more outlandish theories, that the plane had been hijacked by the CIA via remote control,
Oh
or that it
my
had been sucked into a
God,
black
what the
hole.
fuck?
Oh.
Two theories of approximately equivalent likelihood. And that's only considering the evidence we've looked at so far. Those who believe this was an accident still have to contend with one more fact, and it's perhaps the most disturbing fact.
Do we
of
know
all.
who did it?
As
I'm
Zahari
saying it's the
headed south
pilot,
over the
dude.
Indian Ocean, this strange series of
Like,
events
there's way too
was
much
oddly
evidence.
familiar to
It's
him.
definitely like the pilot.
That's because, just over a month before this night, he had practiced this journey on his home flight simulator.
Hi everyone, this is a YouTube video that I've made.
On the evening of February 2nd, 2014, Zahari had taken a simulated Boeing 777 up to cruising altitude and flown it along the Strait of Malacca. There was nothing particularly unusual about this. Malaysia Airlines had plenty of flights which went up
What
the
the
Strait
fuck
of Malacca,
is the point of
and,
going
like many
respectful?
pilots,
What is it?
Zahari
What
sometimes
does that do
practiced
for me?
flights on his home computer. What was unusual
That's kind of
was
the
what he
thing
did
that
next.
aggravates me about situations like this, because there's nothing unusual until it's unusual, you know? Like, oh yeah, it's not suspect until it's fucking suspect. It's not suspect until fucking 238 people go missing.
Once Zahari had reached the end of the Malacca Strait, he turned the plane to the south, and then he used the flight simulator's map function to drag it deep into the southern Indian Ocean. From there, he set the fuel quantity to 0 and began gliding the plane. First, from an altitude of about 37,000 feet, and then from 4,000 feet. If this simulator route was a mere coincidence, then, once again, we would have to conclude that chance itself had it out for Captain Zahari on this night. Zahari undid his seatbelt and reclined in his seat. He gazed out into the darkness in front of him. For thousands of miles, there lay nothing but dark, deep ocean. Some of the deepest ocean in the world, in fact, and the most isolated too. Almost no shipping lanes traverse the southern Indian Ocean. It was now deep into the night on March 8, 2014. But this date hadn't been Zahari's first choice. On February 3rd, when he used his flight simulator to fly to the southern Indian Ocean, he had set the date on the simulator as February 21st. Fans of coincidence are now in for another treat, because on February 21st, Zahari had been scheduled to fly Flight 370 to Beijing. That date was his first choice. The day before the flight, on February 20th, Zahari deleted his flight simulator from his home computer and disconnected the drive it had been stored on. But February 21st came and went, and Zahari operated Flight 370 to Beijing as normal. The over 200 people on that plane had had a narrow escape. The passengers on the March 8th flight had not been so lucky. An hour since Malaysia Airlines had called Flight 370
So by
over
a
the SATCOM
day they
phone,
got lucky.
the ground station in Perth initiated another handshake with the aircraft via satellite. The second arc was formed. A few minutes earlier, Malaysia Airlines had finally told Lumpur Control that the position information they'd been providing them with for Flight 370 had actually been based on projected position and not on actual position. Their focus on Cambodia had been a total red herring.
Yeah, that's like almost some Destiny
At
shit.
this
Like
point,
the people that
controllers
missed it
considered
from
the
one
plane might
day.
be on its flight plan route, but that it had experienced a communications failure of some sort. They began contacting Chinese air traffic controllers, as by this point, the aircraft should have been in their airspace. If the flight was running on time, it should arrive in Beijing in just under 3 hours. In the cockpit of Flight 370, hundreds of miles to the south, Zahari twisted the altitude selector on the autopilot and put the plane in a climb. The higher he flew, the less fuel he would use, and the deeper into the ocean he could go. He knew that if he crashed far enough into the middle of the ocean, the crash site would never be found. Any wreckage which floated on the surface would take months, even years, to wash up on the shores of Africa and Australia. Perhaps investigators would piece together a rough picture of what happened, but without any hard evidence, his family and friends would be spared the shame of knowing with certainty what he did. There would always be a shadow of doubt as to what had happened to the plane. Out over the middle of the southern Indian Ocean, Zahari was now perhaps the most isolated person on the planet. For miles in every direction, there was not a single human life. No islands, no planes, and no boats. And now, even though his aircraft still had hours of fuel on board, there was no longer any reason for him to be part of this mission. He had carried out his tasks just as he had practiced for weeks. With the turn to the south complete, and his autopilot keeping the plane on course to the middle of the southern Indian Ocean, his presence on board was now superfluous. He would now slip into the night. For the second time that night, Zahari opened the outflow valves. Only this time, he didn't don his oxygen mask.
Like my nigga.
Within seconds, he was breathing thin air at 40,000 feet. His thinking slowed, his senses dulled, and moments later, the lights went out. Flight 370 was now a ghost plane, whispering out over the dark open ocean.
But why?
As the hours went by, the satellite data unit on board continued its hourly handshakes with the ground station in Perth. It was early morning in Beijing, and controllers were hoping to see a Malaysian 777 on final approach to the runway. Its scheduled time of arrival was 6:30 a.m. But this time came and went, and
What are you
still
doing,
no
Bash?
plane appeared on the horizon. Families waiting for the arrival of their loved ones were told that the flight was delayed. Meanwhile, search and
Yeah,
rescue efforts
Goose.
began in
Mental
the South
health
China
is
Sea.
gotta make
With
sure
no
that shit
contact
is,
for hours, rescuers were
is
fearing
good,
the
dude.
worst.
Especially if you're doing jobs
Would
like
they come
this.
face to
People's
face with the shattered
lives
wreckage of a fully
literally
loaded 777?
rely on your actions.
They had no idea as they searched quite how absurd the situation truly was. At that very moment, the aircraft was still in the air. Only it was thousands of miles to the south, and everybody on board was already dead. Malaysia Airlines Operations Center made another SATCOM call to the cockpit of Flight 370. Incredibly, this was only the second call they made to the aircraft over the entire flight. But just like it had the first time, the phone rang out. This time, Zahari wasn't even there to see it. For the airline, there was no avoiding it.
God.
Flight 370 was now
Oh
officially
my
missing.
fucking God. Oh my fucking
Just
God.
before 7:30 that morning,
You good,
Malaysia
man?
Airlines issued a press
I'm
statement
not
announcing
good.
that the flight was missing and that they were working
Yeah,
with
it's
search and
pissing me
rescue
the fuck
authorities
off.
to find the plane. The world now knew that a Malaysian Airlines flight had crashed.
Yeah, Goose.
nobody knew,
Nero's
and what
fucking
nobody
died
could
over
possibly
here.
have
I
known,
don't know.
was that the aircraft was still very much in the air, still making its way south on autopilot as the sun
My
rose
boy's
in
going
the
through
southern
it.
Indian Ocean.
And it's highly pissing
An
me
hour
off.
after the last satellite phone call to the plane, the ground station in Perth initiated another handshake with
Oh,
the
I actually
aircraft,
got to pay attention to
creating
the
the
sound in
sixth
this
ring
fucking game.
and
I got to
therefore
put my
the
headphones
sixth
on.
arc.
What
Early
the
morning
fuck?
rays of sun now
Perhaps,
streamed
Goose.
in the
I
windows
don't
of the
know.
vacant
You
plane,
gotta tell
the
Nero
sole
that
witness
yourself,
of the
dude.
silent horror which had unfolded hours beforehand.
God, bro.
The scene on board was still
My
like a
boy
photograph,
Goose is saying too much
capturing a
weed,
moment
dude.
from hours ago
Too much
and
ganj.
frozen in time ever
This nigga
since.
Goose sound like an alcoholic.
Nothing on board had
The
moved
fuck you
since
mean
that
too much
moment.
weed?
But this eerie serenity would soon be shattered.
That's
All of the
trash
pent-up
chat, dude.
violence which had been obscured by Zahari's modus operandi would now be unleashed all at once.
Yeah,
Shortly
dude,
after 8 o'clock
Nero
that
doing some
morning,
hater
the
shit.
right-hand engine ran out of
I
fuel.
fucking guess.
To compensate, the left-hand engine went to full power. With this, the 777 began a gentle turn to the right. A few minutes later, the left-hand engine flamed out. The autopilot
The
and
left-hand
autothrottle
engine
disconnected.
flamed out.
The cockpit
Flame
instruments
on!
went dark. Deprived of power and electricity, Flight 370
Was it a
was now at the whim
flame
of
on?
aerodynamics. The plane began slowing down and descending. It was the beginning of the end. Except, the aircraft had a final trick up its sleeve. In the 777, some fuel is reserved for the auxiliary power unit, the APU, in case both engines flame out. The APU is a small gas turbine engine in the aircraft's tail. It doesn't produce any thrust,
shit gonna
but
kill
it
me
does
already,
provide the
bro.
plane with limited electrical and hydraulic power. In the case of a double engine failure, it starts automatically and provides enough power to ensure that the aircraft remains controllable. But without the pilots at the controls, this was no good. Except, on this morning, this feature of the Boeing 777
What?
would leave an incredible clue for investigators. The APU automatically started up, drawing from the small amount of fuel still remaining in the tanks. When it was up and running, electrical power was restored to the aircraft, bringing some of the instruments and systems back online. One of the systems to which power was restored was the satellite data unit. It sent a signal to the satellite above the Indian Ocean, just like the one it had sent almost 6 hours earlier, requesting
Like,
to
how
log
the
on to the
fuck am I
satellite network.
supposed to dodge that, my
This signal
nigga?
created a final
the
ring,
fuck,
and therefore
man?
a final arc, the now infamous 7th arc. If the APU had not been restarted
Oh my
automatically, this signal would never have been sent, and we would never know where the plane had
guess.
run out of fuel. This signal was different than the other ones which had been sent out
Restart
over the Indian
automatically.
Ocean, in that it was not a handshake initiated by the ground station in Perth, but a log-on request initiated by the aircraft itself. Zahari could have had no idea that this arc would be created, pretty much confirming the plane's location in its final minutes. But this isn't where the story ends, because, as it turned out, there was one more thing which could be gleaned from the signals sent to the satellite by the SATCOM.
So there's more.
As the satellite data unit of Flight 370 powered up, multiple aircraft systems took turns logging onto the satellite network, each sending a signal within a few minutes of the other. When engineers analysed the frequency of these signals from the 7th arc, they found something odd. They were at a lower frequency than all of the previous signals.
And I died.
After eliminating various possibilities, what remained was a clear answer. When Flight 370 sent these signals to the satellite, it was descending away from the satellite, stretching out the radio wave as it was being transmitted. This caused the satellite to receive a lower frequency signal. But investigators didn't stop there. By precisely comparing the normal frequency of the signals, which the aircraft had sent previously, with the frequency of the signals received from the plane on the 7th arc, investigators could determine roughly how fast the plane was descending when it sent these signals. At 19 minutes past 8 and 29 seconds, Flight 370 was descending at a relatively normal rate of about 4,000 feet per minute. This is steeper than a plane would typically descend at, but it was within the ballpark for a normal flight. However, just 8 seconds later, when it sent another signal, the aircraft was screaming towards the ocean at an incredible rate of approximately 15,000 feet per minute. This was about 10 times the normal descent rate, and well beyond anything an aircraft like the 777 would glide at.
Jesus
Such an incredible
Christ.
rate of descent is consistent with the aircraft being in a steep turn, rolling onto its side as it fell towards the ocean. As the plane
Jesus
neared supersonic
Trinity.
speeds, some of the control surfaces on the wing, including the flaperon, began to flutter before detaching from the wing. Less than 2 minutes later, Flight 370 plunged into the ocean. At 21 minutes past 8 and 7 seconds, one more signal should have been sent from the plane to the satellite. This
So that shit's
signal
just
never
fucking.
came.
Damn.
Most of the aircraft was shattered upon impact, with the debris sinking for miles before settling scattered on the seabed below. However, hundreds of pieces began floating. Over the coming months and years, these pieces washed up thousands of miles away, on the shores of Madagascar, South Africa, Reunion, and Tanzania, among other countries. Over 30 pieces of wreckage have been discovered to date, both from the interior and exterior of the aircraft. A flaperon from the right wing, the plastic frame of the
Yeah, I've seen this shit
attendant
so
screen
many
from the back
times.
of the
Like all
passenger seat,
these pieces
a
of
section
evidence.
of wall paneling from the forward cabin. Many of these 30 pieces have been recovered by one man, Blaine Gibson, which, aside from being a testament to his perseverance and dedication, indicates that there are hundreds or even thousands of pieces still waiting to be discovered
Oh,
on
one
the shorelines
man.
of Africa and nearby islands, if only governments were willing to look. These pieces are the only hard physical evidence showing that the plane went down in the southern Indian Ocean, and therefore that it flew south after passing Sumatra and not north, as some people had believed. In the years since the disappearance, search teams carried out extensive underwater searches along the 7th arc, mapping over 120,000 square kilometers of seabed.
That's a lot.
But so far, the plane's wreckage has not been found. Today, almost 10 years since the aircraft went missing, all searches have been called off, pending new and credible information on the plane's final resting place. But there is still one final turn in the story of Flight 370. Let's say that at some future date, maybe decades from now, we do find the wreckage. Would this bring us any closer to understanding why the plane crashed? The black boxes, if they still contain data after what might turn out to be decades underwater, may not have any recordings of the flight's final hours. That's because, if the captain was intent on hiding the aircraft and on hiding his own culpability, he would simply have pulled the circuit breakers for the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder shortly after asking the first officer to leave the cockpit. Nothing in the wreckage would point towards his involvement. Of course, such a finding as blank black boxes would be evidence in itself, but as always with MH370, the question lies in how this evidence should be interpreted. Those who favour accident scenarios would use this as further evidence that a massive electrical failure befell the aircraft, while those who think that Zahari crashed the plane would use this as evidence that he was responsible.
Because he was. What do you mean?
When something as seemingly impossible as the disappearance of a modern airliner happens, we naturally want the cause to be as big as the event itself. But in all likelihood, this was not a grand conspiracy by the CIA or the Russians involving spies or classified technology, nor is it likely that it was the result of a series of highly improbable accidents. Rather, all the evidence points towards a single, simple explanation. Deliberate, premeditated action by a skilled pilot, intent on accomplishing an unthinkable but entirely achievable goal: to make an aircraft disappear.
Yeah,
This video is not a definitive account of what happened on Flight 370. Experts disagree on a number of important aspects of the flight, including whether there were any turns after the plane went south, and whether Zahari was dead at the end, as depicted in this video, or whether he glided his 777 over 100 kilometers from the point of fuel exhaustion and ditched it onto the surface of the ocean. These important questions have not been resolved, and they have significant implications for where the search efforts are directed. For this reason, unless new evidence is released by the Malaysian government,
which
it's quite
there's
possible
probably not
that the
going
most
to be.
fruitful line of inquiry will be to investigate the possible motives and beliefs of Zahari Ahmad Shah. He is overwhelmingly likely to be the cause of the plane's disappearance.
Yeah,
And therefore, understanding his mind may hold the key to finding Flight 370. Where would he have directed the plane? Would he have tried to glide it at the end? It's an uncomfortable truth that as long as humans can fly passenger jets, humans can crash passenger jets. No amount of tracking technology or cockpit procedures can prevent this. The rarity of such events is the only solace for those of us who fly today.
Oh my god!
This is of little help to the families of those who stepped on board Flight 370 on March 7th, 2014.
Yeah, like that's what I want to know
This
is why,
video is
dude.
dedicated to those families and to their loved ones.
Yeah, like I don't know why this guy did this shit.
Alexa.
Like that, like
Alexa.
that shit is crazy, chat. But yeah, honestly, like we could sit here and speculate all we want, but without the fucking, you know, without the fucking the stupid what's the word I'm trying to say here? The fucking goddamn fucking what am I trying to say? Without the stupid the wreckage of the plane, we won't know nothing. Well, the most we could do is just, you know, I guess that's what he wanted in the end. Oh fuck, but yeah, if you guys actually stuck by this shit, you know, and got your popcorn and fucking stuck by with us and all that rambling that we did and shit, thanks. Cause yeah, fuck, I spaced out there. I'm sorry for like this shit was so fucking long, but yeah, thanks for fucking staying to the end of the video and stay tuned for the next one. Peace.